Well. It's another day in Donald Kent land. Welcome again to a life changing experience. Before the end of this show, you will have seen and heard things that will change your life forever. Prepare yourself for an epic journey, not for the faint of heart. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Donald Kent, your host, illustrating the MAGA Force graphic novel. Quick look at the MAGA Force promo art with Militiaman heading the team, fighting off the evil globalist cult with his extremely wicked, cool Patriot Avenger force. We've got Red Rover, Pierce Arrow, Everyman, and Flexo. Your classic superhero team with your sort of super Captain America style lead character, Militiaman, fighting the evil cult hordes of the New World Order. Will humanity survive? Only time will tell, but the spirit of freedom is strong with this one. Militiaman. Alright, so that's just a nice little intro. Fun times. Alright, so I'm going to do a little bit of inking here. I think I might do a different page. I kind of like to jump around just for fun, mainly because quick other thing. I brought my guitar, so I might play a tune or two. If you're nice. Okay? You gotta be nice to me though. Let's look through some other pages. See what kind of inking we can do. So these, of course, are the recent pages. And there's a little teaser. Actually, I think I like this image right here. I think that's kind of cool. Of Militiaman. There's all kinds of little cues and Easter eggs in here. Good morning. Who's our visitor here? Kai of Bajor. Welcome, Kai. Great to have you. I'll show you a couple things here. There's all kinds of little symbols in the story that cue people to the things that are going on in our world. And there's also, I don't know how to say this, there's knowledge in here, like, for example, the technology of lasers, satellite laser weapons that I'm not supposed to know about, you're not supposed to know about. This gives a kind of a behind-the-scenes look at this is the TV channel called Judeo-Christian News, and the rally that they're broadcasting. There's more scenes of the story. They have a mysterious angelic figure who kind of rescues Militiaman after this giant explosion. The pages aren't in order, so it's a little jumbled, but I think you're getting a taste of or a feel for what this is. Here's the this is it's kind of like a Trump rally, but for a superhero team called MAGA Force. And you got your cool characters. You got your comedy relief guy over here, Flexo, He's always cracking jokes, bit of a smart ass. Um, you've got the kind of techie Iron Man-y sort of character. You've got sort of militant type superheroes, etc. You can see there's quite a lot of people in this football stadium arena. As they're being interviewed, they're talking about the crisis that America is in and how we might deal with it, and how law enforcement itself has failed, rather not law enforcement, but the judicial system has failed, how Christians specifically are being targeted. As you can see here, it's I guess a bit, what's the word, controversial, but it's also fun and funny. There's some romance in there. Ooh la la. And actually, this is the point where Militiaman and his wife announce that they're going to have a kid. So everybody's, kind of cheering them on, happy about it. A little montage of the different characters in action. Also, they have a sort of, what's the word? Like just community, civic help, where they're helping people with education, construction, disaster relief. And here they are at the headquarters of Judeo-Christian News, shaking hands with the main news broadcaster there. Talking about how to protect the people and their property from this evil cult that is anti-American. And then, of course, the kind of Judeo-Christian News corporate overlord watching how the media machine is used to gatekeep patriots from various informations. But once again, you have a little more of this. Now here in this page, we see the main broadcaster guy. He's got a thing for Militiaman's wife, and that's not cool. So that is going to manifest in some pretty ugly ways down the road in this story. Could be very serious, and that could trigger something the likes of which we have never seen. Because Militiaman doesn't yet know his true purpose and his great powers. And we're going to find out as we go. So let's see if there's anybody who wants to say hi, introduce himself in the chat. Good morning. I'm doing it, it's Saturday, but I'm doing this a bit early to try to touch base or provide some time with my friends in Europe. I always feel guilty that I do these late shows, and it's just too late for people in Europe. Like, I've got a lot of friends in the UK that come on, and that's lovely. It's not, I guess, too late. Got my dear friend in Paris, Flash Gorgon, the best meme artist of the world. He's on. He comes on once in a while. I think he was on last night or the other night. And anyway, I just want to allow my friends in Europe to come on and be part of the show. So I guess I'll just kind of get to work here. I got some tunes going on. If you guys have any questions or comments or topics you'd like to rap about, hit me up. Just let it loose. Let's enjoy free speech while we can. This right here is a very, very cool, it's called a 2-page spread. It's hard to see, I'm sorry, but you can get the kind of the gist of it, I guess. And then once it's inked and colored, it'll be mind-blowing. So get your seatbelts on, folks. All right, so here we go. That was really cool how the music timed with what I just said. I'm like in the zone, man. The universe is cooperating. Or maybe I'm cooperating with the universe. That's probably more appropriate. So, Kai, what's up, man? Where are you from? What country are you from, Kai? I'd love to know more about you. And hey, Rosemary's here. Lovely to have you, my dear friend. I just woke up and saw you doing your thing, Donald. Woohoo! Um, yeah, we should. I should have you on the show sometime. It would be really neat for you and I to do a little interview or collab or something. See what's going on. That'd be fun. Have you been doing any ghost hunting, Rosemary? Um, so right now, what I'm gonna do right now is, hey, Donald, I'm American. Oh, Eastern. Oh, okay, okay, cool, very cool. I'm just assuming that because I get a lot of Europeans on here, so, but it's good to have you. So right now, I'm just kind of laying out the panels. It's just the technical side of this. Kind of feel like I need a little more lights. All right, let's see how this works. And I can actually zoom in a bit once in a while to show you a closer view of what I'm doing and whatnot. All right. But yeah, these cozy streams are just to kind of keep us sane, in this crazy world of ours. It just keeps getting crazier out there. Yeah, we're well past Joker levels at this point. So it's nice just to have a little time with your fam and your community and your people and get a little bit of that nice social time. You know what I mean? A little bit of music, a little bit of chat. Keep yourself sane in these insane times. So I was, this morning while I was kind of having my coffee, I was just casually strolling through, I don't know if they're TikTok videos or what kind of videos. They're just sort of little videos on, I think, Facebook or Instagram. And I came across this really interesting one that I've been thinking a lot about. People who know me know that I've been researching ufology as a hobby. I'm not like an in the field reporter, for like 17 years. And, there was a day when I was just sitting in front of the computer and I thought, you know what, this is like anything I want to know is out there on the internet. Let's just, well, gee, I've always wondered about UFOs. Are they real? Click, click, click. Oh shit, 17 years later, I'm in the zone, I'm in this kind of, and it's not like I own the information. Anybody can access this information. But where I'm going with this is that this particular video, it was one of these like Google Earth, I don't know what to call it. It's somebody with Google Earth and they go to Antarctica and they're zooming in. And this person knew of a very specific location on Antarctica where they zoomed in to some kind of like, there's a building in the middle of nowhere in the frozen tundra. And then what's insane about it is that, with Google Earth, you can kind of walk on roads and stuff and sort of see things. But in this particular case, you could actually walk into the building in like a Google Earth type software. And then you're walking around the building, and this person went over to a kind of I don't know, it was somewhere in the building, and there were like cork boards on the wall, and this person zoomed in at things that were posted on the cork board, and they were detailed information on technologies that appear to be otherworldly, I guess, to or technologies that I don't think are really well known. Things to do with dark matter, things to do with uh, communications. Interesting stuff that, I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't know, what these things are. I know, of course, like, the key words and concepts or whatever, that are just popularized. But it was fascinating. It was just really fascinating. And it just corroborates with a lot of other information about Antarctica. There's so much going on down there that is very, very significant, but also very secret. A couple of years ago, the Pope and the head of the Orthodox Church both went on a trip to Antarctica. What the hell? Why would they want to go to Antarctica? Like, what's down there for them? John Kerry went down there. Now, anywhere John Kerry goes is suspicious. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's never a good sign. You know what I mean? He's I don't need to go too far into that. So those things are, yeah, pretty suspicious, I guess is what I'll say. I think anybody who knows about the kind of like the lore of Hitler and his UFOs, all of that stuff, Aldebaran, Antarctica, etc., New Schwabenland, these are really, really interesting and significant topics. Admiral Byrd's military expedition, which wasn't really an expedition. They found out that the Nazis had moved to Antarctica, and they brought warships down there. So, in the news, it was sold as a kind of, oh, look at our great explorers are, going to the far reaches of the earth to discover blah, blah, blah. And they came running back with their tail between their legs because Nazi UFOs kicked their asses. And here we are, God knows, I don't know how many years later that was from that event, and the information's coming out now. Or not now, I suppose it's been out for some time, but it's just starting to kind of seep into not the mainstream, but into the popular culture. Just sort of put it that way. I'm sure Rosemary knows a lot about what I'm talking about. She's one of the coolest ladies I know. Super, super sweetheart. What a doll. So, yes, I'm like Agent Mulder, like Donald Mulder. I know that. I've always thought Mulder was a gross name. It's like, what are you, Moldy or something? Like, what the hell kind of name is Mulder? Scully and Mulder. So Scully. What could be a more unattractive name for a woman? Hi, I'm made of skulls. I'm Scully. I don't know. Something's wrong with me, apparently. Yes, they broke the mold. So who else is here? Let's see what we got. I'm going to check the chat. And Crusader 21. Crusader is like my bodyguard. He's always here. Thank you for joining me, bud. Yes, Antarctica is full of mystery, 100%. Yes. Thank you, Donald. Haha. Good times. Hey, Nullis is here. Yes. Woo-woo. My good man, Nullis. So, yeah. Nullis, are you working today, or are you kind of listening, or what are you up to? And also, Kai is new to our community. Kai, are you an artist, or how did you find this channel? Hey, Ulfric is here. Excellent. Man, now I feel like it's a party. Let me Let me get the drinks and the snacks out, okay, guys? Get you guys all set up. Got some synthwave in the background. Somebody suggested that on a previous show, and I thought, duh, yeah, of course, synthwave. Like it'd be very appropriate, I think, since I'm in that kind of cultural spectrum, if you will. So, Ulfric, what are you up to, man? What's shaking on this Saturday morning? It's kind of gloomy where I am. Not that I'm gloomy, but like the weather is gloomy. But I'm loving that spring is creeping up on us, and we're getting closer and closer. Look at all these templates that I have. All these different shapes and things that you may need. It's just part of the artist studio. What I'm looking for is a hard edge to hit this thing here. So Kai has replied. What did you say? Well, Donald, I am avid reader and I love science fiction. I also like comic books. Though I admit most of the mainstream comic books recent years are not as good as they were years ago. Oh, big time, my bro. Are you aware of Comicsgate? Do you know anything about Comicsgate? I think we all know on my channel and my community the way that mainstream entertainment is Marxist, essentially. It's just all nasty. It's crazy too, isn't it? I mean, it's like everything and everywhere. Like they just announced there's a new Ghostbusters coming out, and it's got these degenerate creeps, that are playing the main roles, and they're just gonna ruin it. They're just like the last one was sort of the feminist version or whatever. I didn't watch it, but I know that it tanked. People hated it. I feel like there's nothing wrong with like having a female Ghostbusters. It's more about the story, you know what I mean? But even deeper than that, it's just about the failure of the entertainment industry to come up with new fucking ideas, What do we got here? Yeah, I know, like we need a third Ghostbusters, See, I have a really close friend named Kai Moros, and I don't know, he's from Finland, so I didn't know if, you were from Finland or something. Any fantasy in there? Fantasy in where? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I heard of the name, but I'm not sure what it is. In terms of fantasy, I've read much. Any Ghostbusters? Oh, I see what you guys are chatting at Lord of the Rings and stuff. The last one was feminist one was great. Oh, okay. The last one after the feminist one was great. Okay, I don't know. I didn't see it, so I don't know. But I know it was like a lot of the cast from Saturday Night Live. So whenever I see anybody from Saturday Night Live, I'm kind of like, oh, forget it, It's just going to be, just the usual stuff, But here you go. So, like I was saying in one of my... Oh, let me just respond to Kai a little bit. Kai, do you know about the Bizarchives? TheBizarchives.com. A lot of people come to my channel through that community because I illustrated one of the books and I did cover art on 2 of the books. Dave Martell, do you know who Dave Martell is? He's a big mouth. I was just kidding. Big figure in our community. Love you, Dave. Super brilliant guy that has started a publishing company called The Bizarchives. So the Bizarchives, the whole concept is to return or revitalize or recapture pulp that guy or whatever, you know, then I'll be like, okay, fine, I'll call you back. But you know how these days everything is like scam calls and shit, you know, it's a problem. Anyway, I'm jumping all over the place. You know what? I'll grab the Bizarre Archives. Hang on. There goes my guitar. Crash. To move that. Yeah, I have my guitar. I don't know if you guys want me to play some songs a little later or something. I could do that. Let's see if I can adjust the camera. So here we are. The Bizarchives. Very cool. The Bizarchives.com. I illustrated the cover here. And then I'll do a tiny look at the illustrations inside. Let's see if I can get a little more light on this. This should be kind of cool. So you've got these short stories in a sort of pulp fiction vein. And then I have these illustrations at the beginning of each story. You know, so this one's called The Silver Key by Dave Martell, right there. And then, you know, this gives you a little, you can see the guy has a key, he's opening this door, and then he's releasing all these demons and whatnot, you know. So it's that kind of sci-fi horror, cosmic horror type stuff, da-da-da. And so I'm trying to show you a few more illustrations. Come on. I like this one a lot. I'm pretty proud of this. This is obviously, is that Greetings from the Old World. Welcome, my friend from Germany. We're having a look at the Bizarchives that I illustrated and did the cover art for. So, thebizarchives.com, I would highly recommend this particular book because I illustrated it. A little biased, yes, but I also get residuals. And there you go. This is interesting because I think it works from any angle. This is obviously, you know, in space. You know, it's like a space trucker, and he loses his mind, and so I've got that kind of like look on his face, the look of madness. So just kind of have a little peek at some of this fun stuff. Thebizarchives.com. There you go. This is a really interesting Stranger in the Morgue by Marc-André Chevalier. Never know if I'm pronouncing things correctly. I'll just be pretentious about it, you know. What else we got in here? Oh, this one is one of Dave Martell's creations. Lex and the Horror of the Burnwick Hollows. It's kind of a Lord of the Rings style story with his version, like it's like his Conan the Barbarian kind of a character. Anyway, fabulous stuff. Go to thebizarchives.com. Anyway, and back to Maga Force. I'm gonna turn the music down a hair because I feel like I'm yelling, and I don't want you to think I'm angry at you. Okay, that's a little nicer. Oh, just... So, yeah, I'm going to check the chat real fast here. What do we got? Taking Back Pulp Fiction, you got it. Bizarchives is the bomb. Go buy him as many books as possible. Yes. Sorry, Donald. I am not familiar with Bizarre. Okay, in terms of name, I figured I'd tell you. It comes from Star Trek. Oh, cool. Okay. No sound. I don't know why. Okay, never mind. It's working. Greetings from the old world. So, call in. What's new, man? How you been? What's going on in the old world? Oh, man. Got a lot going on in this crazy world. So, I'm going to do some drawing. You know what? I'm going to jump over to the brush and work on some of these characters. You know what? The characters are a little bit tiny. So when you're working with really small images, then you have to work with smaller lines. Now, even though this is a marker, I can get some kind of wispy qualities that are nice. You know what? I just realized something. Oh, crap. Yeah. It's funny because, like, page by page by page, you can sometimes forget details. Like, this guy has a specific design on his costume, and you got to make sure that you get it right consistently, page to page, you know? Like, he's got a little American flag on his, I guess, his left arm, for example, you know? Anyway, moving on. So, yeah. Let's see what we got. Maybe I'll turn this at hair. How about you, Ulfric? What's new, man? What you got going on today, bruh? Tell you what, I think I will do the brush on this. Alright, here we go. So yeah, I was getting a bit stressed out with Twitter last night. It's just a waterfalls of like bad news. It's just cascading, you know. And I was like, it's too much. Always trying to think of ways to counteract the crisis that we're in, coming up with ideas. But there's also a time when you're like, you know what, I have to manage my mental health too, you know. Maybe I take on too much, you know. You know, like saving the world might be too much. I don't know. I'm going to zoom in on this so you guys can kind of enjoy what it looks like a little bit better. Let's see if I can. Nice. There you go. This particular guy here, Everyman. I think that, I don't know, I just think that's an interesting concept. His ability, all of these characters have, like, except for Militiaman, have some kind of technology or super skills that they have. Um, but, you know, these characters get killed off after the first issue. And I would love to have like their own series. Um, but the focus is on Militiaman in this graphic novel. You know, if the thing takes off or something, then it's like I would just do the writing and hire or have a team do the art, you know? I've been thinking a lot how, like, I think perhaps Vox Day would like to publish this. He doesn't know me, he doesn't know the story yet, but is it Arkhaven Comics? I believe. That's his company, and they do a lot of kind of patriot themed alt-right sort of stuff. They also have some fairly big names, Chuck Dixon, etc. So, you know, that could be a thing. For me, I really, like, I think I would prefer to have it picked up by, like, Dark Horse or Boom Studios or some kind of mainstream comics company. I obviously support, you know, like these kind of politically based companies, but I also don't want to be in a political ghetto, so to speak. Um, this story, I pause like this a lot when I talk when I'm inking because I'm inking, I'm like concentrating on the inking. Anyway, this story is really targeted towards like patriots essentially, um, but it's not the normal storyline that they might be expecting. Um, I would say that Americans and probably many people across Western civilization have really changed a lot in the past couple years due to the tyranny that we're living under. So these characters in this story, they reflect that. And I feel like, I cruise around different Facebook groups and such, and there's people that are still kind of stuck in, I hate to say boomer tier, but like kind of boomer tier ideas about what's going on and blah blah blah, all of that. And things have changed so much and are continuing to change rapidly that believing in the system like somehow is, it's kind of crazy. So this story is it's going to be very controversial. um, I got a lot of art and a lot of time to go before I really get down to that stuff. I mean, right now this is just the beginning. But yeah, there you go. Any thoughts or comments? Be right back. Okay. Glad to have you guys with me. It's nice to enjoy your company and enjoy some interesting conversation. Um, these shows have been really neat. I've been enjoying them a lot. Uh, People seem to be enjoying them a lot as well. So that's cool. Um, so I've enjoyed a lot of other artists' shows as well. This is especially inking. I don't know. There's something about inking that I really find nice. I guess it's kind of relaxing actually to watch. But for me, it's very cool to see artwork come alive. That's how, because you know, you turn the pencils into a finished art. Um, Again, it's through the inking that you kind of make your statement come to life, or make things happen. I don't know, adding the details. So my point is that like my pencils are pretty like loose, and then with the inks I get to complete the image. And while I'm doing that, I'm also thinking through like, well, I just want to make it dynamic for starters, but also each of these characters, they have their own kind of body language, their own kind of attitude. and the way that they relate to each other in a composition. There's always got to be some space for word balloons and the like. Hey, Kai is back. Um, who's that? We got another new friend here. Clen Jones. Hey, Clen, what's shaking, man? What do you got going on? Are there any artists in the audience? Any comic book guys or illustrators? Or are you here just for the politics? So if you're new to the channel, raise your hand. A lot of videos. I've got my original music in here. A lot of interviews. I took a year off. Yeah, that's not going to go down that road again and again and again. But this channel was very lively. A year ago, regular programming. I at some point I almost had like 3 shows a week, and you know, events occurred, and I had to kind of take time off, and I'm back. So I think at that time, I was very excited about connecting with the community, serving the community, having new voices, different voices on to, let everybody see the length and breadth of our online community, learn about each other's ideas, to get actually more like a documentary, if you will, of everything going on in our scene. And it's just really exciting. It's very, very exciting. So, but then in a sense, you kind of hit a wall where you're like, okay, well, I did that. What's next? Like that kind of thing. And because I don't like the idea of doing shows just to do shows, where I think if you're a content developer and you feel compelled to fill up time, it's like, like I just don't feel like that's a sincere way of working. And a lot of those kind of shows, they focus a lot on reaction to news and stuff, and I don't need any more of that. We got a lot of that, So I wasn't going to be that guy. And there's people that do it better than I do anyway, There's a lot of shows that are kind of like political philosophy in our sphere, and I really, really enjoy that. I've been on several panels and things like that. But again, it's like, okay, how we're just gonna sort of just do the same thing over and over, So I even had the thought of like, well, am I gonna quit this channel completely, or what, And I needed time to kind of figure that out. And so in the past year, it really hit me like, you know what? Get back to your own work. Like I sell my skills. I freelance. You saw the Biz Archives, for example, and that's good stuff. That's cool. I love it. Proud of it. I'm making money from it, but I have my own ideas too. And I want to get those out there. So that's where I'm at right now. Some nice music going on here. Nice vibe. Anything happening in the chat? Just got back. Okay, cool. So, I've noticed that these streams are also becoming like semi-autobiographical. And so I'm thinking maybe I'll kind of continue on that a bit. I guess the thing about being an artist is that I don't know how to say this, but in a sense you want a document of your life. You want a kind of immortality through your art. But your life has a great deal to do with your art, right? It's in your life. So it all plays in. And problem is, my life is very, very tragic. I have had just numerous tragedies. And I guess they make for, like if this were a movie or a novel, it would make for a good novel, And in a way, it's kind of all about overcoming these things. Like, yeah, I'd say that's a thing, But I don't like to be grim or dour online, I have it's just that, I don't want to. I'm trying to uplift people, not bring them down, But there's at the same time, it's like you shouldn't really hide from or be shy about certain things, And I feel that people, they bond through tragedies. There's a certain family or friendship that you get from sharing those things with each other. I'm like smart enough to know what not to share. Like whatever is maybe too personal. But and then there's also a lot of joy and laughter too. Lots of fun, cool stuff. So I was talking about my family origins. My dad, his family is Pennsylvania Irish. My grandfather worked in the coal mines, and like all that kind of stuff. My mom's family immigrated from, well, part of them immigrated from Quebec to Vermont. It's the French side of my family. And pretty interesting. Anyway, so I was born. And I have siblings. I'm not going to get into like details or whatever on that. But I think as a kid, I grew up in a very, very wonderful, like the perfect American dream kind of environment. Really, really, really good. I think that's actually like the aesthetic flavor of my life is a longing to go back and back to the joy, innocence, everything. I mean, just that, paradise, paradise lost. The paradise of childhood in a good family, in a good environment. The town where I grew up is, it's, again, just very, very much the American dream. And I grew up across, or yeah, I grew up across from a park, and summers were super lively with just like all the kids in the town, and really, really cool, fun things that we did. Lots of great adventures and stuff like that. Um, I think that in a way is also good for socializing as a child. Um, just my head is like flooded with great memories just talking about it right now. A lot of love in my family. My mom and dad were deeply in love with each other, and there was no like yelling or abuse or weird, complicated situations. We were a devout Catholic family. Um, Grew up with like Catholic education, that kind of thing. Um, and it's funny because I drifted away from that over the years. But I have a lot of friends in the movement that are Catholics and Christians, as well as like just local friends. And I don't know what to say. I'm not like, I guess, becoming Catholic again per se, but there's something inside me that is awakening from some of these discussions. So like the main discussion that I'm having with a lot of these people is that Christians have to, I don't know quite what the word is, but I don't want to say radicalized, but something like they've got to change in a way where if they don't, then their religion is going to perish. And obviously, like, love is the primary message here. With Christianity, not war. you know, Whereas like other religions have war and slavery baked right into the religion. The non-believer is the slave and kill them at will. And so Christianity cannot survive in that kind of environment. So I'm just trying to discuss with these people, how can contemporary modern Christians recognize this reality? Is there anything in Christianity that could, in a sense, militarize it, for the future, for its own future? There's a lot of, I also have a lot of friends that are, I hate to use the word pagan. I never really like that word. That's, I don't think, a really appropriate word. Asatru, Odinism, they are practitioners or interested in indigenous European religion, if you can call it that. And we go back and forth and back and forth, and this is just a really big topic in our sphere. There's people that say that it's hopeless. Christianity is a Jewish cult, and it's a psyop of our people, and da da da. And then, others that are like, Europe has been Christian for centuries, and it's part of who we are, and so like some of those topics get too complex for me, and I'm not trying to make enemies with anybody. I'm really just approaching this. My goal is the survival of our people. That is what matters most to me. Like, nothing really matters outside that, because, and then this is just the point I was trying to make to someone I was talking to on Twitter yesterday. It's like, we don't have the luxury of being liberal about, like, you know, our enemies, or anything, you know. We're being extincted, you know, we're being genocided, we're being replaced. And if Christians don't snap out of it, it's, you know, the religion's going to go like the way of the dodo. And so I'm like, don't you have a responsibility to try to stop that? And then I get silence. And so that, you know, because they're looking for something within their wheelhouse, you know, within the religion, that gives them direction on this topic. And I don't know that they can find it, you know. I'm not an expert on Christianity, so I certainly am not the guy to ask, you know. And it's compelling, you know, the whole thing is just very, very compelling. So in a sense, I'm not like for or against Christianity, in the sense that what most people would how they would approach this discussion. Again, my objective is our survival, our taking back our nations, our destiny, our sovereignty, all of that, you know. That's what matters. It's, you know, without that, what have you got, you know? So there you go. All right. So I don't know. Am I out of bounds here, guys? Any ideas, thoughts? Yeah, I guess you guys are just chilling like a villain, as they say. This music is getting pretty cool. I don't know that I would call this like synthwave. It's cool, but it's different. It's like what they say about me. Well, you're cool, but you're different. You don't fit the mold. That's perhaps the thing that would define me, I guess. So they say, you know, for writers, they say write what you know, and generally you know yourself, your life and stuff. So back to the childhood stuff. So a couple outstanding memories. I think growing up across from the park was really a very, very cool and significant thing. Just a lot of fun, cool times. But then also just the safety of it. Like, nobody locked their doors at night. You know, you just, it's like, why would you do that? You know, there's nobody's gonna break in. You're safe. You know, and that was nice. I can remember. I think I've always been like very aesthetically sensitive, because I can remember as a child, and I mean, I'm talking like maybe first or second grade. I don't recall. Maybe, yeah, like maybe around that time. It was autumn, fall, and we're in class, and the school was one of these really old schools that had like really high ceilings, and it was built in the 30s. Beautiful old building, and so, you know, the teachers teaching the lesson and da da da. And my desk is facing the window in like a kind of a big square, if you will. And I noticed these huge old trees outside the window and how they're all changing colors. And I was absolutely taken away by the beauty of it. So much so that I started crying. Isn't that weird? You know, I mean, it's like the beauty of it totally overwhelmed me, and I just started crying and crying. And I honestly don't remember like if the teacher stopped the class or said anything, or I don't know, have that. I just don't remember that. But I'll never forget the feeling I had from the intensity of that. I can remember driving in the family car. I don't know where we were going or whatever, but uh, I'm looking out the window at these beautiful rolling clouds. Like, I think they're called cirrus clouds. They're the big, fluffy, big, pillowy, fluffy kinds that sort of roll and very lovely. And in my 4 or 5 year old mind, I basically thought like I'm like that's God. I'm looking at God, and it was a profound experience. And it was one of these experiences that like goes to the primal core of your being, and like stays with you throughout your life. And in a child's mind, when you think like I can see God, that's a pretty that's a pretty intense experience. And so, because like you're taught God through the church as a child, and in a sense, it's like, okay, we tell you what God is, and not like you have an interpretation of it. And again, I'm a child on top of it. So, but yeah, somehow that happened, and it became a part of who I am. It's kind of wonderful in a strange, beautiful way. So then, as you grow older, you're piecing together what is this world? What's it all about? And as a kid, you're not super complicated, but it's just sort of like figuring out the social dynamics of life, and learning from mistakes, and you do that all through life. Like it actually doesn't stop. What else is going on? You guys are just listening very passively. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. I will see if I can come back. All right, buddy. Thanks for trying. We hope to have you back. So some cool things. I moved at one point. My family moved to a different part of town, and I can remember walking home from school. I was like, whatever. I'm still in elementary school, grammar school, and I don't know if I think I kind of forgot that we moved, and just by the force of habit, I walked to my old house. And, I get there and nobody's there, the furniture's gone, it was bizarre. And of course I realized, oh crap, I walked, oh crap, like I've got to walk all the way to the other side of town. This is a long walk. I'm a kid, I'm like, oh geez, I goofed, I made a big mistake here. And I'm sure my parents were probably worried about me, like, where the hell are you, that kind of thing. But what I did is, don't ask me how, but the house was open. Like I said, we didn't lock our doors back then. The house was open, it was empty, and I walked around it one more time just to kind of, and I mean, in a sense, there's a certain melancholy in that, right? Where it's like I'm saying goodbye to this life, this old life, and hello to a new life. And the new house is wonderful, great neighborhood. It's a bigger house. Um, there was, a lot of kids around the neighborhood. So it's cool, and but it's a change too. I didn't have that big park across the street. And a whole new set of friends. Was kind of, had a crush on a girl on my street, and you know, there's some mean kids there too, and mean in the sense of like, I'll be honest, I'm this kind of sensitive, religious, artistic child, and I'm different. I'm not like the sports jockey kind of, you know, guy that like bullies people like, oh, I'm better than you at this and ha ha ha, or whatever. That just the kind of pecking order of, you know, boys essentially, and how they behave, treat each other. Um, so it was hard for me to get along with some of these new friends because they were like kind of like the super athletes, the popular kids, the rich kids. This is where we moved, was more of a rich neighborhood, and my family was upper middle class, and so we were doing well. Um, I guess that probably has something to do with the move. I don't know. That's interesting because I was a kid, so I wouldn't. If my dad were alive, I could probably ask him a little bit about that. But anyway, so now I moved there when I was about 8, and then I'm dealing with some new kids, and I don't really fit into that kind of jock culture. That wasn't me. But since these guys were the local kids, there was like, okay, these are the kids that you're gonna play with. And my parents were very much like, get out of the house and go play. Like don't be. They understood and respected that I like to draw in my room and all that or whatever. It was fine. They didn't discourage my art development. Quite the opposite. They paid for classes and stuff. I had an uncle who attended Pratt University in New York City, which is one of the top art universities in America, and certainly was at the time that he attended it. He was classmates with Robert Mapplethorpe, who is a disgusting homosexual degenerate. My uncle didn't know that at the time. He hadn't become, the famous Robert Mapplethorpe, the photographer. But that's just a weird historic tidbit about me or whatever. And like years later, that uncle and I, who by the way he passed away about a year ago, tragically, but he was and for me in a sense he was kind of like the model of like, oh, this is the guy I want to be when I'm an adult, sort of. He was very cool, very funny, well traveled, hip, cool. Rode a motorcycle. Had exotic girlfriends, and this, that, and the other thing. So, and he was just, he came in the room and like everybody just gravitated to him, and he just had massive amounts of confidence. And then the art thing. I mean, that was the primary thing, you know. So um, he took a great interest in my art development, which was wonderful. It was very, very helpful. And where am I going with this? So I somehow got off to my uncle on I was talking about something else. Oh yeah, art classes and things. So I can remember my mom signed me up for, oh, it was like a preliminary drawing class, you know, like with pastels, charcoal, yada yada, at the local community center. My old house was close to the community center, and then, you know, whatever. At the end of the day, I came home with some nice artwork, and my mom was like, you've got your uncle's genes. You're the artist of the family." So all through my childhood, I was always introduced as the artist of the family. And that gets in your head, you know, that gets in your head like, I'm an artist, I'm an artist, I'm an artist. This is what, you know, my mom calls me this. And being an artist is not like because your parents said you were, you know, but you can imagine how that would play a role in, you know, how you think, right? How you think of yourself. And in a sense, it gives a certain permission to you to be that way, to grow in that way, and you know, it fosters that sensibility in you. What's going on here? I'm back for now. Hopefully, my computer will not act up. Computer gremlins. Yeah, I don't like computer gremlins. So, and as a kid, what are your artistic influences? Well, mine were comic books. You know, of course, I knew your basic art stuff that you learn in school, but you go to the candy store and there's a you know, a rack of comics or a shelf of magazines with comics in them, da da da, and they're these bright, wonderful, magical little paper magazines with these incredible worlds and incredible creatures and superpowers, and blah 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 blah, on and on. So all of that being said, that those were my early influences. I don't know, we're talking like from age, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. Da da da. The cool thing about growing up on comics is that your reading skills are way ahead of everybody else. So cognitively, I was ahead of people my age in elementary school. Do you guys say elementary school or grammar school? Anyway, I don't know if I need to add details here. Um, and that's helpful, you know, that's a good thing. I think as a kid too, you like there's your mind is open enough to the point where you can believe that it's real. You know, like I thought that in New York City, like if I was always like, man, I can't wait to grow up and go to New York City one day. You know, maybe I'll see Spider-Man, you know, flying, jumping around from building to building. You know, oh man, that's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to grow up and go to New York City. You know, and then okay, so in third grade, this is kind of a cool story. I met one of my best friends. Um, so here's how it goes. Like, I can't say his name, but so I'm in third grade, and you know, your first day, first week of getting into like a new grade, everybody's kind of getting to know each other. It's like, oh, you know, I remember you were in my grade last year, and blah blah blah. Everybody's kind of you get in the lay of the land socially, and everyone already knew me as this kind of artist guy, even in third grade. Like, oh, Donald, he's a great drawer. And then there was this other kid in the class. Now the other thing too is I'm a big guy, and I was the tallest in my class for a very long time. And then there was this other guy was the tallest in his class. So here's these two huge kids, and they're both artists. So everybody in third grade was like, "Wow, how cool!" Donald is meeting this other guy, and they'll kind of like gather around and like see how it goes. Like, are they gonna fight, or are they gonna be friends? What's gonna happen, And my friends were essentially saying like, yeah, oh my God, you got to meet this guy. He's just like you. And they were, talking me up to him as well. And so I can remember when he met me, he was sort of not apprehensive, but like, I think we were both sort of like, wow, like I didn't know there was anybody else like me out there. It was kind of surprising. I'm obviously a friendly person, so that's easy to get along. I get along with pretty much anybody, to an extent. And, we showed each other drawings. We brought drawings in and blah, blah, blah. And then one day he brought in a comic book, or I don't know, probably a couple comic books that he drew. And man, oh my God, I melted like with jealousy. Oh shit, like this guy draws his own comic books. Why didn't I think of that? As a third grade. How old are you in third grade? I don't know, 7, 8 years oldish, something like that. And he looks at me, and I mean, I'm just oogling over these, and like, oh, these are so cool, and oh, that whole jealousy thing. And and he's a better artist than I am. When I say artist in third grade, it's not really an artist per se, but let's just say drawer. That would have been the word that we would have used back then. You're a good drawer. Anyway, what does Nola say here? Oh wow, we got a couple comments. Let's take a look. This is an important point regarding your uncle. How can we reinvigorate your charismatic aesthetic element in our movement? Interesting question. How can we reinvigorate that charismatic aesthetic element in our movement? Damn, dude, you're touching a nerve here. I would say that for starters, well, like we already have a ton of artists, right? It feels as if we need a better platform. We need more exposure for these artists. That's my thinking. We need, excuse me, millions of dollars to solve the problem. Because it's I don't know about you, but like I kind of feel like the movement is in a bit of a stagnant stage right now, artistically or creatively. Now meanwhile there's I don't know how many, but like dozens and dozens of new artists coming into the White Art Collective. But it's more sort of just like in these like online enclaves where they're meeting and working and talking with each other, but not interacting so much with the movement or the public per se. So this is what I was talking about in the previous show, is that I have to essentially get back to doing shows. And Nellis, obviously, the door is open for you every single time, where I will I'll create a platform on which these new folks can come and share their work. And then, we just start sharing those links and get it going again, because like I YouTubed, or rather I searched White Art Collective on YouTube the other day, and like I didn't see a lot of videos come up. Like a bunch of my videos came up, you know. I'm like, something's going on here. So I feel like we gotta pull that back. But that might not answer your question. I feel as if you're probably thinking on a deeper level about that particular question. Let's see how, and that would be a good question for everybody in the chat, to respond to. How do we make it desirable for males to be disciplined and masculine in the face of degeneracy? So, um, I'll just sort of muse on that. I did that interview with Media to Rise recently, and those guys, these are the guys that are in Patriot Front. Um, they do just boxing, weightlifting. You know, they're those hardcore masculine kind of guys. And so that's going to be really cool that Media to Rise is creating a magazine, sort of the Rolling Stone of that scene, if you will. I think that encourages it, but like, I guess personally, I see this as like a much, much bigger problem. I feel like guys in our movement are already there, but maybe not all of us. Like I struggle with discipline every day in my own personal endeavors. Um, for me specifically, a lot of that has to do with just like sometimes it's because of being like busy or some shit and you're trying to get something done. Other times it's more like a depression and a feeling of like wanting to escape into something, whatever that might be, if it's this or that. Um, but like self discipline, I think is pretty essential, pretty core to who we are as a movement. It's an important element. I'm not sure I'm answering your question. I don't know. Rosemary says it's scary to see men becoming more feminine. It's disgusting to see that. I'm like, I'm really, really, I can't overstate how disgusted I am at that whole thing. And those are obviously not guys in our movement. Our guys aren't feminine. Um, this is part of the depression thing, is that you look at how much influence the Jew media has over uh, Western men. I don't know. So I feel as if men always have kind of like I don't know what to call this, but it's like a sexual motivation to impress women and to be a certain way for women, to get their attention and da da da. And I'm like, how the fuck is being feminine attractive to women? But then you can kind of look back at things like hair bands of the 80s, or women do seem to be weirdly attracted to men that wear mascara, or behave in these kind of ways. I've never understood that. I cannot really wrap my head around that. But apparently there's something to it. Um, I have my own theories on, like, for example, what they call fag hags, which is essentially like women who, in my estimation, are essentially failures in terms of, well, basically, these are women who obsess about gay men. Like, they make it their life's mission to defend LGBT. And they wrap their identity into this stuff so much so that like they get psychotic about it. And I feel as if like that is one of the primary problems that has to be addressed. This kind of weird rejection of male female relationships, um, that, like, why would you invest yourself and your time into relationships with gay men when you should be, dating straight guys and thinking about, finding a suitable husband and these things. And I feel like women who are obsessed with gay men generally are not attractive. This is a, you know, and I'm not like trying to be insulting. I really am not. It's not what I'm. It's just not my intent. I'm just trying to tell the truth of as I see it. Um, and so you can see the relationship of that. That, like, but it's like a adolescent rebellion. In the sense that, oh well, if you're not going to accept me as I am and you're not going to love me, then I'm going to turn my bitterness against you, and I'm going to be super pro gay because, blah 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 blah, and you can kind of fill in the blanks. It's not brain surgery. There's a lot of logic to it. Um, it's a pattern that I see, and then, I mean, this this is above and beyond, like, the whole corporate culture of that, and like all of that business. Like the idea of defending policies of like children being mutilated, for this sick so-called trans agenda shit. Like, that is, I can't wrap my head around that. Like, you have to be so profoundly demented to support such a thing. Something's profoundly wrong with you if you think that is like something that, is like a cause. It's just off the charts. I can't, as they say, I just can't. What else is going on here? More specifically, okay, Kai, he's probably gone by now, but have a good day. Thanks for coming. I enjoyed your stream. You appear to be very good at drawing. I wish you luck with your comic book. Take care and God be with you. Thank you, sir. More specifically, how can we... Nellis asks, how can we use our art to promote masculine virtues and aesthetics that unapologetically promote our organic identity as well as our moral and ideological values? So, excuse me, just yesterday, and I'm going to, preface this by saying I know this is not for everyone. So, but I'm just tossing it out here. There was a thread on Twitter about German art, German propaganda art of World War II. And there was a lot of stuff in there that had a very strong, like, Italian fascist kind of graphic quality to it. I think anyone who's somewhat familiar with this art form would have a mental image of what this would look like, etc. Excuse me. And it's highly, I don't want to say romanticized, but idealized. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Very, very masculine. And I don't know. For me personally, I'm super inspired by it. Like, I find it very, very inspiring. And it here's the thing. It has male beauty. And I mean, those two words don't really go easily together, male and beauty. But there's a certain masculine aesthetic to it that is aesthetically pleasing and aesthetically inspiring and beautiful in its way. Beauty in the kind of, greater sense of the word, not like fashion magazine beauty, but more in a almost spiritual sense of the word. So you look at that and you get a sense of this kind of like primordial masculine energy that's really like stunning and almost godlike, to be real honest with you. That's actually a good way to put it. Um, yeah. So, would that fly? You know, would that be something that we could or should bring back? You know, I think we have the synth wave aesthetic that's pretty well established in our movement, and a lot of that uses like Greco-Roman sculptures and things of the like. So I don't see a great deal of Arnold Brecker or that kind of like Italian futurism. I actually don't really see a lot of that in like the synthwave kind of alt-right art aesthetic, and I'm a little bit surprised about that. Like why not? I don't know. Um, you'd think somewhere somehow somebody would do that. I have seen some weird AI art that the AI picks these things and like combines it together, which sort of makes sense, right? And from like, if you're talking about a certain art aesthetic and mixed with these right wing ideals, you know, just a search engine would pull that stuff up anyway. And I'm not a fan of AI art. Like I think I just, I'm not like, you know, gonna have a fight with you because you do or whatever. That's you. You do you. But I don't like it. And that's it. So. Interesting discussion. See, like that would make a really cool panel discussion. Um, and I would say a panel discussion for the new artists on our scene. Like these are the people that need to be asking these questions of themselves and figuring out, like, if I'm a part of this culture, political movement, etc. Here's my take. Like, I always feel like we have a responsibility, and there's a lot of folks coming in that they're new, and they weren't sort of there in the past couple of years or whatever when the first generation of White Art Collective people were figuring things out. So you don't have to figure it out. We've already done a lot of the legwork. Just watch Imperium Art, get into the shows and things that we've done. Um, yeah. Mm. This is coming together nicely. Let's see what else what you guys are talking about. Okay, have a great day. Yeah, it's interesting to muse on. Like I'd say that for me, one of the things that concerns me, or yeah, I'll put it that way, concerns me, is my personal belief is that if you are in the white identity sphere as an artist, then you're not just an artist. You're not just a person making your art. You're making art within a movement. Therefore, you have to be literate in a number of ideas. I mean, is it a movement then? I mean, an art movement, I should say. I can't say that it's an art movement if people are not all kind of on the same page. You know what I mean? There has to be some standards, and yeah. The other thing too is this question of, if you're just doing traditional European Western arts, are you doing white identity art within the context of the movement? And my answer is no, but I do see both sides of the coin, like, because in some way, just doing, traditional Western art, whatever your culture is, in today's world, that's almost an act of rebellion. You know what I mean? Um, but at the same time, not because like you just like I don't know. I always think of like folk dances or you know all of the things that people just normally do. That that's part of their culture. They do it all the time. It's not a political act per se. But if you're making art that is in some way political, in some way speaking to the topic of white genocide, then you're part of the movement. You see what I'm saying? Um, I'm fine with debating the topic. I'd say we should debate it. That would be a good thing. There's people that have a feeling of like, well, I don't want to have to be put in a box and like I've got to do it this way because blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, you have to have artistic freedom, yes. But if you're not really speaking to our cause, then you're just making your art. You're not making white identity art. You get my point? And you're free to do that. You're fine. You're free to do that. Like nobody's stopping you. But I don't know. Try to like, I don't know. Try to think of an analogy. Like, okay, I lived in Asia. I learned um, Asian traditional Asian art, and brush painting, all that kind of stuff. The classical Japanese Chinese style art, and if I let's say okay, so like excuse me, at one point I started using that medium to do artworks that were more surreal and that incorporated my dreams and my ideas and my values. And then, is that traditional Asian art now? No. And I'm using the medium, I'm using the sort of the aesthetics and some of the traditional elements of it, but I'm changing the context and the meaning of it. And so it's no longer, and then there's even a question of like, well, you're not Asian, so that alone brings up the question, is it truly Asian art? Um, Interesting topic. I guess the feeling I'm conveying here is that like, don't be, you're in or you're out. Like, don't sort of come into this and try to be like apologetic or try to hide in something. Like, you're welcome in the community, but when you do what we do, you're sticking your neck out. You're sticking your neck out. You're making a statement against white genocide, against the global order. That's no joke. That is no joke. And you have to realize that art is a weapon. Our enemies know it. Oh boy, do they know it. They sure do. So it's a kind of culture war. You know, um, Act like it. That's what I have to say. Yeah. Um, and some people might not like that message, and I don't mean to be offensive or whatever, but I guess it's like time to put your big boy pants on. Let's see where I'm going from here. Am I making enemies with all this? I hope not. I love your comic that you did with Mark Brahman. It was awesome. Thank you for bringing that up. If you go to my website, kent-art.weebly.com, I've got several pages posted there that you can enjoy checking out. I was always sad that that project kind of, and Frank, to be dead honest with you, we ran out of funding. Okay, so like it costs money to do these things. So we had a funder, whatever that's called, a patron of some kind, you know, and we gave it a shot. And I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say we gave it a shot because like you books don't sell themselves. You've got to sell the book. You got to make the effort, and marketing is a whole other budget. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a, you know, if you're in, you got to be all in. You know. Anyway, that's it is what it is. It's fine. It was a great experience. Mark is a friend, and I think it was cool for me in a sense that it started to allow me to kind of establish myself as like a comics guy in our scene. There's some surprises that I can't really talk about until those surprises come around. Mark's got a lot going on, but I think he prefers it to be private, so that's all I can do is I can't really say anymore. And there you go. But yeah, I think I'm disappointed that the Seraph is the name of that book. That was just one issue, and that was the end of it. So. It's still on Amazon, by the way. Like it's always been just in ebook form, so like you could download it and you know have it on your phone or your computer, whatever. Can you see? Yeah, you can see. Okay, good. Crap, I'm getting a phone call. I guess I won't answer that since I'm in the middle of this. So that's the trick about using your phone to do live streams is you get phone calls. I started one the other day and got a call just after I started. I was like, gotta go. But so, yeah. How's the music? You guys digging the music? So the dream really is to be able to do this full time. You know, more than that is to have like teams of people. You know, to have a publishing company of some kind or something that where you could put these things out, like you know, put tons of these books out. You know, comics production's obviously very expensive and time consuming. Um, it's kind of a miracle that it gets done. I'm just gonna grab a drink here. Stay hydrated, folks. Mm. Mm. So I saw. Oh boy, lot going on in the chat here. What does it say? I love your comic. Mark's great, and so are you. Oh, that's a sweet thing to say. I bought the Seraph on Kindle. Thank you, thank you. That's cool. Well, tell the audience about Seraph, the comic, and what you think about it. What maybe is cool about it, etc. That'd be cool. Working with Mark Brahman was freaking cool. That was like, for me, a huge part of it. You know. If you're not familiar with Brahman, you can go to the ApollonianTransmission.com. That's a mouthful, Apollonian Transmission, but that's his site. And very controversial figure. When you get to the Apollonian Transmission, you'll know why. I think there's something to be said for people that do work. I don't know if there's a name for this field, but essentially the field of like the study of the Jews, Jewish influence, Jewish, symbolism, the use of culture and arts to subvert the cultures that they parasite off of. Pretty harsh description, but I would say very accurate to what Mark does. Interesting stuff. And Mark's got theories that, people don't agree with, and etc. And the debates go on, blah blah blah. So for me, I know what I think. I have my own views, and I mean, a lot of the stuff is like anything where you generally kind of trust the person did the research, and then you do so much research, and it's like, okay, here's the data, but then you have to kind of make a theory from the data. Like, what is your theory, or what is your interpretation of the data? You know what I'm saying? That, I think, is what's interesting. And then after that, the question of, well, what do you do with that information? And I guess the answer would be essentially that, you have to control your own narrative. You have to have your own heroes. It's just part of why Mark would make a comic book, is the idea of, having your own heroes, designing your own heroes, toying with the narrative, deconstructing the narratives that have been imposed on us or taught to us falsely. So people are, in a sense, only what they believe themselves to be. If you are lied to about history and you build your whole identity around that lie, you got a problem. What you say here? Rosemary is saying about Seraph. I just met him last month. Oh, that's cool. End of January. It was awesome. Cool. Wow. I'd love to know more about that, but probably in a private conversation. Yeah. It's funny, I met Josh Neal at the White Art Collective Music Festival, and he had an interesting thing to say about Mark. He was saying that I look like what my voice sounds like, and I thought, oh, that's a really neat thing to say, you know. And he says, but Mark doesn't look anything like what his voice sounds like. Would you agree with that, Rosemary? Does you know? Do you think that Josh Neal was right in saying that? I've never seen him. I've worked with him a lot, and he knows what I look like. Actually, um, I didn't feel the need to hide my face from him because we're both in the same world of what we do. But that's fair enough. Like everybody has their own precautions that we take. Um, um, and I'm like, I really, I don't know how to say this. Even if I didn't care about being doxxed, I really don't like. My face is not what I'm about. Like I'm not. I mean, Rosemary, on the other hand, is absolutely gorgeous. She's super crazy beautiful. So that would be okay. But like with my content, I almost sort of feel like it's a distraction in a way. I sort of enjoy the anonymousness of what I do. And honestly, you're right. In this day and age, it's like your privacy is like one of the most valuable things that you have now. You know. So, oh boy, lots of comments. Let's see what we can do here. Let me have a look at the comments. It was awesome, Donald. I look a million times better than I sound. Naturally, right? Of course, you're protecting us from the light beams that emanate from you, Nellis. Correct, right? That's true. I think he is right. Oh, it's interesting. I'll be honest. I am very, very, very curious what Mark looks like. Just for that alone, I think that's a curious thing. It was really, really neat when I showed up at the location for the White Art Collective's music festival. Um, there are a bunch of people in the White Art Collective that just show themselves on camera, and so of course, I already knew what to expect there. And then there's a few that don't. So I can remember people like I got out of the car and I'm moving my music equipment, and people are running up to me like, Donald, oh my God, like it's you, or whatever. And that was a lovely feeling because like we're all friends and all that kind of stuff. But to, let's say, like a total stranger runs up to you and is like, oh my God, hey, wow, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're here. Da, da. And then like about 5 seconds into it, you go, holy shit, you're that guy, because like I recognize that voice. It's like a very distinct voice. Wow. And then, it's just a neat, fun, cool experience to like, make those connections. Um, yeah, that was one of the best experiences of my life. That festival, really. I mean, it was. I don't know. I mean, I be honest with you. I got all my traveling out of me years ago. Like I'm not. I don't really like to travel much anymore, to be honest. Just unless I mean, I'd like to go to Europe or whatever. But in general, I'm sort of like I just want to do art, which means stay home, you know. Um, so I feel like I'm all over the place with these topics. I'm not really uh, sticking on one subject here, but it's been fun in a way. Like people do guess what I look like. There's some I was it Nullis? Somebody said like I always pictured you as a redhead, like a ginger or something. I think it was Nullis that said that. Is that right? Um, My Irish grandmother had red hair, and in the right light, you can see it in my beard. Mm, I think the one thing I can give away is that last couple years I've had to wear glasses, but I only wear them for reading and drawing. So what is that? Is that you're farsighted? I guess that's what that means. Um, it sucks. It's like it's just one more damn thing I gotta carry around, and like whatever. But moving on. I guess what we'll do is move down to. I'm gonna have to move the camera a touch for this section. Yeah. Oh, we got a lot of comments here. We got a new friend here, Hank Lee. Welcome, Hank. Good to have you. How did you come to find this channel, Hank? I always like to ask new folks, if they know me from Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, Instagram. Let's see. I'm just going to read some of the comments here. My gaze would blind men and weaken feminine. Yes, the almighty Nullus. Yeah, I believe there's another White Art Collective music festival coming up. I think they try to do it every year. How about an artist? So Hank says, how about an artist who's both in and out white identity movement? Can an artist make art that is self-consciously white identitarian and then also make different art? Absolutely, 100%, totally, dude. And this is an interesting topic because that's part of why it's good to have a pseudonym, a fake name. Is that like I've published children's books, but I'm not gonna use the same name for that. So of course you can, because I mean, as artists, we're human beings. Like, you have different interests, and you want to produce different kinds of work, and depending on your mood, art is sort of, I think of art is in a sense like food. It's like music. You don't want to listen to the same band all the time or eat the same food all the time. From Twitter. Oh, cool. Okay. Let's see. I might have said something like that. Oh, yeah, about the red beard. Ulfric knows what I look like. Hank Lee, that's a great question. I think the time will come when famous white European artists will embrace their identities. Every day brings us closer to this point. Yeah, it's crazy because it feels like while things are getting worse, they're also getting better. And I suppose we're just going to keep going on this bizarre trajectory. I mean, worse and better, I suppose, dependent on how you look at things and yada yada. As they say in Monty Python, always look at the bright side of life. And I've been trying to do that more because shit is getting fucking dismal right now. But I'm trying. So there you go. But yeah, like, I'm trying to think what. Okay, so like, I trying to think what other kind of artwork that I've done. You know, for as a freelancer, you've got to have a certain kind of freedom. I have a buddy who runs a t-shirt business, and you know he pays well, and I, I have a certain amount of freedom where I can, create designs and stuff, but a lot of times he'll be like, okay, I want like a naked chick with a skull and like an octopus on her head, man. I'm like that. Like, okay, I can do that for you, for X amount of money. I'm not really doing any more freelance at the moment, just because I don't need to, and then secondly, I'm trying to focus on this. But once in a while, I'll bend, and I'm like, all right, because he's a friend or something like that. I did what's his name? I did a book for Spencer Quinn recently, and it's a young adult novel, like a teen drama novel. The style of it is kind of simplistic at a certain to an extent, and then there's another part of the story that is back in the past, and the style is more like old etchings that you would see from like the 17th century. And I don't know. So what do Lee? What kind of work do you do? What's your gig? What sort of artwork do you do, or do you do artwork? I don't know. So we are cruising along. I'm so glad you guys are keeping me company today. It's awesome. It's great to have your company. I really appreciate it. Feel free to ask any questions or bring up any topics you want to chat about. That's part of what this whole scene is just cool conversation. Twitter, no this. Yes, okay, all set. So this kind of works pretty hard to do because it's obviously it's in miniature, and weirdly, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like when you're drawing something or someone far away, you have to make make the statement, so to speak, with less line and less information. Things obviously farther away from us have less detail, and we can't make them out clearly. But like if you saw a man or a woman walking and they were, I don't know, 500 yards away from you, you could tell if it was a man or a woman just by the shape of the body. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the thing of it, is that you have to understate the information but get it across. So it's sort of a less is more kind of thing. This is one of the things that when I'm looking at other comic book artists, I'm always kind of wondering, well, how do they do it? Like, what's their method? What do they... Maybe I'll take a second and look at some comics and just have a nice little break from this, I guess. And when people are looking at this in the book, they're just going to glance by it, just going to... They'll be reading, to be honest with you, there'll be like word balloons over a lot of this stuff as well. So you... It's like, well, then why the hell are you drawing it? Not all of it, like these guys are going to be in silhouette. They're just going to be black. So you can put some word balloons over them and still, that way you're economizing the space, if that makes sense. Just talking technical stuff here. What's nice about a scene like this is the what do you call it? The perspective. It's 1 point perspective. It all kind of goes from the central point out. Wes Anderson uses that a lot in his films. If you guys like Wes Anderson films, we're talking about what was it? The Team Sisu, The Life Aquatic. The other day, Mark Mothersbaugh music. I'd say I'm a big Bill Murray fan. Like I really like Bill Murray. There's a movie of his. I don't know what year it came out. It was like I think in the '80s, and it's based off a famous book. It's called The Razor's Edge. Uh, Somerset Maugham, I think the name is something, and it takes place in around the World War One, and it's kind of one of these. It's a dude who he comes from like upper class New Englander kind of like that sort of thing. He's from that culture, and he and his buddies go to Europe to fight World War One, but they all think that they're like being gallant, and they have this like romanticized view, and they're gonna come back heroes and that kind of shit. And of course it's brutal and terrible and shocking, traumatizing, all this stuff. And it leads him on another course in life. Like he's supposed to come back and get married and do all the things that a rich guy is supposed to do. He's got a wife waiting for him and blah blah blah, blah all this stuff. And but he's not ready to get married. He's very has kind of like an existential crisis where he really needs to find out some answers about life. And so he's trying to explain to his fiance, I'm not ready. I need some time. Da 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 da. He ends up going to Paris, and as his fiance sort of breaks up with him, he ends up being with another woman who dies from, I think, like she kind of gets caught up in the degenerate life and dies of, like, I think, like maybe heroin or something of this nature. There's some, I think, Arab guy that is getting her into that type shit, yada yada. Long story short, he ends up going to Tibet, like India and Tibet. There's another time where he like is like a miner in Ireland or someplace. I don't know. Anyway, it's like the story of his life and excuse me, how he comes to find out his answers. And there's a pretty powerful scene, and it's Bill Murray playing all this. So like Bill Murray's known as this kind of anti-establishment, goofy, silly Saturday Night Live comedian guy, and it was his first serious film. And man, it was just like it hit, it hit hard. It was like, damn, there's something about seeing like a comedian play a serious role when it's like pretty damn serious. There's some pretty horrible things that happen. I don't know what it is, but like because you associate like laughter with that person, and then when you feel pain and sorrow, it hits hard. There's just something to it. So that really kind of made me think differently about Bill Murray as an actor. Pretty cool stuff. There's an interesting scene where he's, I don't know that he becomes a monk, but he studies Buddhism in the movie. And there's a scene where he's pretty much alone up on a mountain in the Himalayan mountains, and it's just like him sort of living in a cave, studying the Buddhist sutras, scriptures. And at some point, it's quite cold up there, as you can imagine, and he tears the pages out of the Buddhist scriptures and uses it to light his fire. And that's, obviously symbolically it means like he's essentially enlightened or something, that he kind of hits that point where he no longer needs books. It's really beautiful. I've never read The Razor's Edge. I don't know. I'm sure it's probably pretty good. I understand it's a classic. But in all my years of studying Buddhism and stuff, I'm still... I think of like spirituality and the goal of trying to improve yourself is a lot like dieting and exercise, but for your mind. You know what I'm saying? And that you can gather wisdom and you can, grow and you will transform. But you can also digress. And if you don't kind of have regular discipline, regular sort of habits, etc., you will digress. And so that's the sort of diet exercise part of it, if you will. I could be wrong. Maybe you hit a certain stride or a certain zone or something, and then you don't need books anymore, yada yada. I guess the thing is trying to have a way to overcome the suffering of life that works, that isn't some bullshit, Hallmark greeting card meme, that kind of thing, but that's actually realistic, and I'm very, very fortunate to have a lot of friends that are actually engaged in their spiritual life and that try to, and a spiritual life is just the word of it does sound a little, roll your eyes kind of thing, like, oh, we got to listen to this, but what else is there? This is actually what life is. And the longer you deny it, the more you're going to hurt, the more you're going to suffer. You got to get that shit down, yeah. Boy, I hit the jackpot with this music today. I found a really good music stream. So I'm just a little more curious about what you guys would like to talk about, I can kind of get into some interesting discussion. It's been ages since I saw that movie. I'm going to have to watch that movie again. Thanks for the reminder. There's actually, it's hard to find good movies, I find, and then once in a while you come across something and you're like, oh, jackpot, It's really neat too when maybe you saw the movie when you were younger, and then you see it again and you get a kind of, I don't know what to even call it, but it's this weird sense of time that, wow, like you see how much you changed from then to now. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's like a time marker in your life, if you will, because that's what I was feeling when I was watching it. It was like, oh God, I remember being, I don't know how old I was, like 17 or something when I saw that. I had a friend. I've had several good friends that were different people that, made their spiritual path an important part of their life. And these are good friends to have, and the one said, "Oh, you got to see you got to see this movie," you know. And especially since I've always been interested in Buddhism, that you could see how that friend would be like, "Oh, dude, this movie's for you, man," you know, or whatever, you know. And yeah, man, I mean, it impacted me a lot. But of course, at 17, I was different than I am now, you know. Um, Speaking of which, I have been kind of hunting around. I've got like Roku TV, and you get all these channels, yada yada. And I've been hunting around late, you know, when I'm like ready to just decompress and you know get ready for bed. I always try to find a movie or something to sort of zone out to, you know. um, and where am I going with this? Oh yeah, so I there's a bunch of sort of little documentaries about Monty Python, and there's like a bunch of them on I think Netflix. And so I've been going through all of them, and you know, when I first learned about that, that was again like sometime in high school. I think in high school, you know, you it's an interesting time where you have different types of friends, and they're introducing you to different types of content. You know, bands, movies, books, ideas. You know, there's a lot going on in the world, you know, and you meet different people with different interests, yada yada. So I think you know at some point you got to have a like a Monty Python phase, you know. So yeah, it's very I think specific to its time. I think that that kind of humor maybe doesn't make sense to modern audiences. I'm like an Anglophile, so like I love all things British, you know, and so I naturally I'm gonna enjoy that. And like I like John Cleese, blah blah blah, whatever. So these documentaries were cool because they illustrate the times as well. You know, they illustrate like what was going on in the world, and you know, I guess I feel that comedy is an interesting marker of culture and history in a way. Um, Obviously, most comedy today is extremely offensive and degenerate to me, you know, not to like liberals, right? You know, um, because it's just all part of that Marxist programming. Where am I going with this? Yeah, well, whatever. Good shows. Yeah. Um, let's see if we got any comments going down in the chat. Yes, spirituality is real, right? I think it's more real than this world. I feel like, you know, I've been dealing with, you know, grief and death and illness. It's my, like I had mentioned earlier, like my uncle passed away. I've got some siblings in my family that are very, very ill due to the vaccine. They won't admit it, and they hate me for telling the truth about it. Um, but like these are, you know, mortality is a thing that's very much in our face these days, and that begs the question of like, well, what are you doing with your life? You know. So there you go. Hmm. Maybe the kind of not funny but funny interesting thing is how we don't see it. Like we can't in a sense perceive in a sense that we're just like we're like meat bicycles, you know, like the and our consciousness or our soul is riding this 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 carcass that is traversing the third dimension, you know, and of time and space, and um, the illusion of reality is so perfect and so clear. Especially the younger you are, the less aware you are of your mortality. Um, really, there's no escaping the lessons. You can, you know, push them off. You can deny them. Blah 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 blah. But it's coming. You know. Um, what I guess I can't wrap my head around are atheists. That's the thing. Oh, that was a part of the Monty Python topic. So you know they're famous for that movie, The Meaning of Life. It's probably the best film. And in one of the documentaries, they're up in their 70s now, and they're whatever. There's in one of the documentaries, they're kind of hanging out, chatting, and they're talking about one of the members that died. I forget his name, Graham something, and like what was it, Terry Gilliam? I can't remember which one, but one of the guys was like, you know, and they're joking and they're having fun, and the whole thing's just a lot of fun. And then one of them says something to the effect of like, you know, I, I'll be glad when this is over. You know, you know, I hope there's no afterlife because I've had enough of like the lunacy of all the bullshit, whatever. And that totally threw the tone of the conversation way off. Like everybody was kind of not funny anymore. Like there was a very weird tone that came over the guys in Monty Python. Um, John Cleese had seemed to be the only one that had done any sort of research on like the biology of death and the spirit, and pointed out in it some interesting data. Um, the animator guy, I guess that is that Terry Gilliam. He's the American in the group. He's like a chronic hippie type guy, sort of a boomer hippie. And so right off the bat, he's like sort of spouting off all this like boomer hippie type gobbledygook. But the other guys, they just they made all these kind of sour faces, and you could tell they were uncomfortable with the topic of death. I'm like, you know, you guys made a movie, The Meaning of Life, and you've never even fucking thought about it. I mean, come on, you know. It's great to have a laugh, and I love the movie, you know, but like in your personal lives, you have never come to terms with this or even thought this through. Come on, you know. So I was in a way a little disappointed because I'm like I would expect you guys to have some, you know, you're very highly intelligent people. You can't. I just don't see how you can kind of go through life avoiding the topic or whatever. So blah blah blah. That happened. That was a thing. Um, Let's see if there's any chat stuff going on. I'm sorry, Donald. Yeah, we should talk soon. God, yeah, I know. Let's do one of those calls we do. Yeah, we need to. I need to get some Rosemary time in here. There's actually a lot going on in my life that's off camera. Um, Pretty intense stuff, actually. But yeah. So I'm sort of thinking maybe I should talk about something more fun. Anyway, um, yeah. Anything you guys interested in chatting about? Like, I'm laughing about this news about somebody made a chat or not, what's it called, GT or something, the AI art. They made AI art about Trump being arrested, and the photos are hysterical. There's scenes of him like escaping in an orange suit through the sewers and stuff like this. It's so funny, and they're very realistic photos, you know. And so some guy is, I don't know what his intention was, but he's basically trolling the fuck out of the left because, like, you know, the pictures got released, and then they kind of went and, you know, took the internet by storm or whatever, you know, as far as like, you know, like Trump haters are they're like, you know, falling for it basically. They're, you know, just like in glee about that, you know. These are some sick people. It's this Trump derangement shit, you know. It's really a, what do you want to call it? Like a, what's the word I'm looking for? A measurement of how much they want all of us in jail. You know what I mean? Like that's really what that's about. Um, so what do we got? We should talk soon. We definitely need to catch up. Yeah, I'll I don't know, shoot me a message or something. Let's set up some time. That'd be good. Das ist gut, ja. Das ist very good. Yeah, that seems to be like one of the new things that is sort of out there in the algorithm of Twitter and the like, is this kind of the left wing laughing about or celebrating the idea of us being like in civil war and like killing us. Ha ha ha! So funny. It's some sick shit, you know. It's some. There was that one comedian guy who was joking about the NRA going to war with the United States government. You guys might have seen that on Twitter. There's an interesting post that I saw. It was essentially one of these clips from the war between Russia and Ukraine, where they have these drones that drop bombs on the soldiers, the Russian soldiers. They're just like hand grenades and like gas bombs and things. And the drones, of course, have cameras that show it, and then they put it on the internet. Da 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 da. And the one dude was saying, like, oh, and so, like, they had a video like that, but somebody had put some, like, funny music over it. And there's this Russian soldier essentially being gassed, by this drone bomb with, like, funny music over it. And the left is laughing at this, and the guy who shared it was saying, what they're doing is they're fantasizing about that being us, and, like, blah blah blah. And this is some dark shit, I know, but I was like, you're right, it's a problem. Just talking about that's a problem, you know. There's always that sort of, like, is it just the internet, or is this gonna get real? You know what I mean? So that's kind of a thing. But I don't know, maybe our side has a little bit of that too. I don't know. Maybe I'll zoom in for this one. Yeah. Yeah, I want to know what's going on with you as well. Um, so let's see. Kind of get back to some of that autobiography stuff, if that's okay with you guys, I guess. Um, it's too much. I mean, there's this, like, you can't, like, tell your whole life or whatever. There's just too many things that to cover. But in the one episode of this my stream, I was talking about how I first picked up the bass guitar, and how, like, essentially, like, my buddies, one was a drummer, another one came over with a guitar one day, and they're jamming, and then it hit me like, shit, I gotta get a bass guitar, round it out, and that was very, very cool. Playing the Battle of the Bands as a kid, da da da, whatever, high school kid, whatever. Uh, Really freaking cool. Like, there's nothing like the feeling of being on stage in a band and, like, rocking out. It's pretty much addictive in a way. Um, but I think also everybody to some extent needs to be somebody. You want to do a thing that makes you, like, you associate with that thing, and people know you for it or whatever. And I would say for a great number of people, that's some kind of sport, or sports in general. And obviously it could be doing the sport, or just being a fan of X, team, whatever that might be. Um, um, so yeah, there's a certain event that happened in eighth grade that is very controversial. I've actually talked about it on Twitter, and it's a little awkward, so maybe I'll not do that. Um, One of the cool experiences of my youth is that my family used to rent a cottage in the summertime on a lake, and Oh man, just like it was the last week of the summer before school, that kind of thing, something like that. And maybe not all the time, but like whatever. It was a summer thing, and renting a boat and going fishing and going swimming, and there was in this particular lake where our cabin was, there was a lot of clay in the water underneath the water sort of, and I would dig up the clay and do sculptures and stuff with it. That was really neat. um I'm trying to think what else. Just like joyous beautiful memories. I'll tell you, the thing with my dad's heart attack is that the night, that's a very rough story to hear. I don't know if I can go. I can tell you. I don't mind telling you, but like it's not pleasant to listen to because it's very tragic. Um, so one summer we were, getting ready to go on our trip, to our cabin, and I had a buddy sleep over the night before, having a good time, whatever, and there were some mattresses like downstairs in the living room that were kind of sort of like whatever you do your sleepover slumber party type of a thing. And my dad thought, well, I'm gonna take the mattress upstairs before I go to work, and then like after work we'll head out to X location. Well, my dad had a heart problem to begin with, and when he tried to carry this mattress upstairs, he triggered the problem. And then while he was at work, he had a heart attack. And so I could kind of go into the gory details or whatever. It was a very rough situation. But when so I'm sleeping in with my buddy, and not with him obviously. I like we're it's a sleepover, and my mom runs into the room, and she's freaking out and yelling, screaming like, "Get up! We gotta go to the hospital. Your father had a heart attack." And she just like blah, 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 like blasted out all this stuff, and I was just sleeping, so like I'm completely discombobulated. Um, and my friend was like, "Shit, man!" It freaked him out. He was like, "I had better go." Something, something, whatever. And then at that moment, I can remember kind of stepping aside, you know, and thinking, this is the end of my childhood. In fact, this is the end of my whole life as I know it. I'm not like this is a turning point. This is a change, and the chapter is turning per se. And obviously I was absolutely terrified, for my dad. Um, and he lived for another 4 years, but that was like the big major event of my life at that time. So it really really changed from there. Just took a good friend to the airport whose dad passed 90, and really on the edge. Yeah, it's especially with this with the all the people that are vaccinated. um, there's a lot going on. A lot of elderly people are in a lot of danger, and it's rough. There's rough times that we're going through with all that stuff. But at 14, you can imagine, the doctors said he's not going to make it through the night. And then the next day, they said, well, he won't make it through the weekend. And then after the weekend, they said he won't make it through the week. And after the week, they said he won't make it to the end of the month. At the end of the month, they said he won't make it. He's got like 3 months. and 3 months turned into 6 months, and 6 months turned into, and we went, essentially, we just lived in fear for 4 years. Every day coming home from high school, I didn't know if I would find my father dead on the floor, or if, I mean, that kind of pressure for a teenager is very, very, very off the charts. And I would say that's how I became who I am. My childhood or my teenage years or whatever was just totally ripped away from me. This is why I became interested in philosophy and religion and all the rest of it. So I'm very grateful for those years. They were beautiful, wonderful years. Um, yeah. So this, a little dour today, apparently. But this is part of what I'm talking about. Like earlier, I was discussing, like, you gotta get right with yourself as far as like figuring these things out. And then live in accordance with or in harmony with that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? But also, it's like there's a certain level of like fear not. Like live to the fullest. And there's a sort of a silver lining to it. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah. So I guess the nature of these like art streams, what have you, are not, you know, bombastic and like hardcore political, debates and yada yada. It's just chill time with your friends, kind of thing. Um, People have been telling me they like that. They miss that. Okay. All right, we're gonna start dropping some shadows on this. There we go. See, today's Saturday. Got a little hanging out with some friends tomorrow. I gotta get out more. I've been just working a lot. You work, and then you come home and you draw, and all art and no play makes Don a dull boy. A lot of these streams have been very lively, though. Like we get some really neat conversation going in the chat, and really fun and interesting conversation. It's what I love about these chats is that everybody kind of brings their own perspective to things, and we learn, we enrich each other. You know what I mean? So that's cool. So, high school wasn't all dark and dour. It was a ton of fun. For example, the one I was in, like my main band that I was in high school was freaking awesome. Interesting story with that. So, my like a bass player that can sing is always like in very high demand, right? And I kept kind of upping my game and looking to be okay, like I want to do, well, I want to do the next level. I want to do the next level, and at my. Honestly, I don't remember exactly where I found this. I think it was at my where I took guitar lessons, my bass lessons. There was some kind of a sign looking for a bass player that can sing for a classic rock band, and I called the number, and the guy who answered was like, I don't know, not the friendliest. This is like super serious, and but still, whatever. Like and they lived in, or this band was like in the next town. They were technically these guys were that school district was the what do you call it the when you have like two football teams that are enemies, they are the what are they called, like there's a name for that. I don't remember. I'm not a sports guy, so I don't have these words. Not like nemesis, that's a little too harsh, but whatever. That was my school's opposing school, whatever the fuck that's called. And but we're musicians, we don't give a shit about football and stuff. And anyway, and then there's one, so whatever, they're from a different district, and my school, I'll be really honest with you, it's upper middle class, and these guys are more middle to lower class kind of districts. And I don't judge that. I don't judge them. It's obvious. I mean, it's a clear distinction. The one guy lived in like a kind of a trailer park type area. Nice guy or whatever. But like this, just the circumstances of his life and his family. Anyway, these guys were really good musicians for like 15 years old. One of the guys in the band was a year older than us as well, which like in high school is like, whoa, he's a year older, oh my god. But anyway, so I find the house, I find I got my bass guitar, I greeted at the door, I head down to the basement, and I'm there for a not a rehearsal, what's it called, where they try you out, whatever. I'm trying out for the job, and the atmosphere is a little tense. They don't know me, I don't know them. I'm and whatever, and so they say like, what songs do you know, and this, that, and the other thing, and they, what bands do you like? Oh, I love Pink Floyd, and I like blah blah blah, this and that. And they're like, oh, well, we do the song Money from Pink Floyd. It's famous bass line for that. You guys probably know the song. And they're like, can you play Money? And I'm like, yeah, I can play Money. So they head right into the song, the 1, 2, 3, and whatever. And then the band, so like I start the song with the bass riff, and then they all come in, and whoa, it was mind blowing to me. like holy shit, I felt like I was in Pink Floyd all of a sudden, with the full band behind it. It was wicked as hell. Felt so freaking cool. And I didn't sing the song. It was another dude, guitar player, that sang it. But the bass guitar part in that song is very, very significant. And there's a lot of changes, not a lot, but there's some changes that are significant. There's like a whole solo section that has a unique part to blah 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 whatever. And so we went through the whole song together, and like bang, like ended it, and like these guys lit up like a Christmas tree. They were like, you got the job, like you're in. That was fucking awesome. And then once they got to hear me sing, then they were like even more like, holy shit, we hit the jackpot with this guy. What was funny though is they had another bass player before me with the name Don, and he was terrible. So like they used to call him like One Finger Don, because he would just like he didn't actually know how to play the bass or whatever. And so you can imagine like that was like the joke for a while. So now that is the band that I really, really cut my teeth on. That we played lots of cool shows, and we played shows at like VFWs and fairgrounds and house parties, garage parties, that kind of thing. What else did we do? And over the years we just got like better and better. So at one point the older guy, he graduated high school and he went to a local, he was like in a music college or a music program, and he was living in like a animal house kind of a apartment with other college students. And I can remember weekends down there or wherever, you know and like hanging out with like college musicians and uh, partying, and but mostly we were there for recording. We were trying to we had access to like really high end recording equipment, studios, etc. But we were still young and not, we didn't really know what we were doing. That guy was learning how to operate all that equipment, so we would be the band that made the music for his homework and stuff. And we didn't make music per se. We eventually at some point we did start writing though. Like I had already around around 16ish, maybe 15. I think I started writing my own songs, and so there were two guitar players and me, the bass player, who also played guitar. And between us, we like the songs that we wrote were pretty different. Like the feeling and the style, we're three different people, so we have different writing styles. And the one, like the older dude who was in college, he was very progressive rock. He was very, very like, just came up with just a lot of weird stuff that it wasn't super weird, but like if you could imagine like Jethro Tull meets King Crimson, that's like a fairly good description of like his writing style. Mine at the time was I can't really find anything to compare it to. It's definitely has like a lot of classic rock type of like mannerisms to it. Uh, Strong kind of folk music kind of flavor. I mean, again, I was like 15, 16, 17, so like I wasn't highly evolved, as a songwriter or whatever. Not that I am now, but anyway, whatever. It was exciting and cool to be able to write music with a band for the first time. It was a really neat experience. At some point, though, here's an interesting story. I was, a bit of a snot, I think, at age 16, and I didn't want to get a job. And I was like, my band is my job. We're going to make money playing gigs on the weekends, Dad, And they're like, nope, nope, that's not a job. You're going to get a job. No, I don't want to. And then, okay, you're grounded. So of course, I eventually went out and got a job. My first job was at like a bakery or something. But for a while there, though, I was in the doghouse, and the band had to come to my house to rehearse. And so my mom and dad and like my local friends in the neighborhood, those jock friends that I was talking about earlier in the stream, the ones that kind of bullied me and were assholes, and I had to kind of play with them because they were the neighborhood kids that was like the default kids that you play with. Well, now they're watching me and their jaws dropping to the floor like in total envy while I'm kicking out seriously badass, Doobie Brothers, Blue Oyster Cult, uh, you know, blah blah blah. And you name it. We were fucking phenomenal. We were really really good. And like I wasn't trying to hurt them, or make them jealous or whatever. I was just like, hey, come on over. We're rehearsing this weekend. Just drop by. Come on by. And then I'm focusing on the songs and stuff, and I'll glance over at my friends sitting on the basement staircase, and their eyes are bugging out of their head. Like, what? Holy shit! We didn't. You were just that kid that wasn't good at basketball, and now look at you. Come on, you're tall. You're supposed to be good at basketball. You fucking nerd. Well, I guess they got theirs. But so that I have to admit that felt good. I gotta admit. Okay. One of them even wanted to get a drum set and like start getting in on the scene and stuff, and that just never transpired. And then there was some drama. The drummer quit the band because he had had enough. Like one of the guitar players he grew up with, and I won't get into it too much. Whatever, they couldn't get along, and the drummer quit. And so shit, we got to get a new drummer. So the best friend drummer I was talking about earlier, who lives like 2 blocks away, I said, hey man, we need you. Come on down. And it's funny because like people change. Like when you're someone in 3rd grade, when like by the time they get to high school, maybe they get in with a different bunch of friends, and when you're in high school, you're a kid. You're kind of figuring out who you are and where you belong, and you are sort of what's the word, like compensating for like a power deficit because you're a kid, but you want to be a man. I'm a man now. Anyway, this other drummer, the best friend drummer, him and I had kind of gone our own ways as well, because I just got too weird for him with my interest in the arts and poetry and growing my hair long and whatever. And I don't know, it was just at the time. Him and I actually are very good friends now, but that's we're adults. So anyway, he came in. That's when we really started taking off with original music. And I think we tried to record and shit, but then like we hit that age where we all graduated high school, went to different colleges, and the whole thing, it was over. But it was a very very good chapter in my life. Had a by the time I got to college and I got in a band in college, I was already pretty good, and I was already very well actualized as a musician. I kind of knew who I was, so to speak, as a person, as an artist, as a musician. So meeting up with others, was pretty cool. Writing music, talked about that on another stream. Now my dad passed away like the month before I graduated high school, so it was a very very bad time. But at the same time, it was also very exciting to be 18 and going to college, and I went for art. It's a fine art major. Very very exciting. Moved to the city, the big city, and wow, I mean, what a change to go from like this nice kind of American dream conservative Christian suburb to the city, and now I'm in a whole new world. And because my dad died when I was in high school, I sort of qualified for this certain program. It's like a work study program that gives you special financial aid and yada yada. And but it was bizarre because now I'm working on campus in like the food service. Again, I'm like 18 years old, first year of college, and I'm like the only white guy in like this whole thing. Like we would you'd have to go to these sort of work study meetings, and they're all black people. So I wasn't like you know red pilled. This is a long time ago, and I didn't have any real experience or knowledge or any idea whatsoever about race. Other than like what the TV told me to think. So I didn't really go into it. I was naive, I'll just say. Like, I wasn't particularly scared. It was, there's a certain shock to it, though, about looking around and being in a room and seeing, like, fuck. Like, I grew up in a upper middle class family, white, blah, 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 all that. And now I'm like lower class, grunt working alongside black people. And again, I had no preconceived ideas about it because I was primarily just totally naive. I got along like quite well, with most of the people on the job and stuff. And no real, it wasn't, I would say like at that time, like blacks weren't radicalized the way that they are now. And so it was different. You weren't treated like, I don't know how to say it. This is just hard to put into words. I'll give you an example. Like there was a time where I was taking a science class. You're whatever. I had to take some science class, and there was a Nigerian girl, like a exchange student from Nigeria, that sat next to me in class, and we had some project we had to do, and we worked together on this project. And zoom in a little bit so you can see a little better. She was very, very lovely, nice girl, very, very nice girl, and she was super excited about coming to America. And it was funny because the things she told me, like she thought that America was like one gigantic city, like from coast to coast. It was just all buildings. Like, what a wacky idea. Um, she had told me about like some of the violence that she grew up with in Nigeria. Um, Again, you got to remember, I'm like, 19, 18, 19, 20, sort of around that age. Very, very naive, came out of like an all white suburban, upper middle class suburb. And I was very hungry for knowledge and learning about other cultures. I've always been interested in other cultures. Um, and she told me that when she came to the school, that the black students, African American students, they came to her and said, do not talk to any of the white people. They're bad, they hate you, they're evil, don't talk to them, stay away from them. And I mean, she came to America essentially to meet white people. Like that was like, oh, I'm going to America, wow, that big, pie in the sky idea that people have of America. Um, so she didn't have any negative ideas about white people, more positive than anything. And so that was an interesting kind of a some early racial experience that I had. I was shocked at the time. It was kind of, it was, of course, not good, right? I mean, like, what the fuck? It was kind of the feeling you get from that. And then me being like a cool white dude who's essentially like classmate friends with her, like we weren't like hangout friends, but um was like, fuck, I didn't know they hated us that much. You know, why do they hate us so much? You know, so naive. You know, that was a big eye opener. It was a big eye opener, and then I started. Once I knew that, I kind of started opening my eyes more and looking for things. So I would notice, like I can remember, I had a black boss in one in like it was like a pizza and sub shop on campus, and I like transferred over to that job on campus, and I remember meeting the black female boss, and she looks at me for the first time. She goes, "Hmm, you look like you would be good in maintenance." And at 18 years old, I'm like, maintenance. I don't know how to fix things. I don't have any like mechanical background. Well, maintenance means taking out the fucking garbage. Maintenance means mopping the floors, and being like the shit tier lowest of. So you're getting the picture here. It's like, oh, let's fuck with the white guy. Um, I didn't, it's not like getting beaten up by Black Lives Matter, beaten to death like they do to people, or the shit that you see on fucking Twitter every day. Um, just subtler type of things like that. The college, but I mean, I believe me, I didn't like dwell on that or whatever. I just kind of, I was so excited to be in college. It was like a very, very cool time. Really, really, really deeply interested in my fine art major and learning how like classical European art techniques, art history. Like I was like a not four. Well, I had 4.0 for quite a while there because I'm doing stuff I like. You know what I mean? I'm doing. This is what I. This is. It's not high school anymore. You're doing what you love, and so I'm doing it very, very well. Um, and then not only that, I'm around like-minded people who are taking art and I just super wicked cool. Now the professors, on the other hand, there's some trouble with the professors. I think I'd mentioned in a previous show that you get like a counselor who tells you what to do, what classes to take. That was one of my professors. I got a quick note here. Just took a good friend. Oh, no, no. Checking back in. Okay, Ulfric is here. I'm talking about college days, Ulfric. So this is like a female professor in the fine art department, and she was kind of crazy. She was this sort of wacky, moody lady, very, very passionate about art. And I was exceptional, as an artist, so she favored me. So I wasn't really on like her shit list, you know what I mean? So I didn't get abused by her like the way other people did. There were female teachers in the design department that were abusive to me. Because like if you're not gay, then you're bad, in the design department. Um, anyway, that's another topic. So and I'm learning all these really wicked techniques. I'm literally putting hundreds of hours into drawing. The amount of homework you get is insane. It's like it's heavy loads of art homework, which is drawing. And like one of the pieces I drew was like a 12-foot long piece in what do you call it? It's like a oil pastel, which is sort of like paint, but in a stick form, if you could imagine that. It's tough with that power dynamic. My sympathies, yeah. So this teacher I'm referring to, I noticed every semester she would single out a student and like abuse them until they quit uh, the department. Like they left the fine art department, and she would always abuse them to the point where they would literally cry in class. I've seen her bring people to tears. So like and and then it hit me like fuck, like on the one hand, it's okay, like I kind of appreciate the toughness of like, you know, you're not doing good enough, you have to work harder, that kind of like that thing. But this wasn't that. This particular teacher, she wanted to destroy people. She took pleasure in destroying, in making people quit art altogether, like ruining that part of their lives. That's very fucked up. Very fucked up. And like when I noticed that, like semester after semester, she'd do this, I was like, oh shit, there's a pattern here. Like this woman is a monster. Um, but like she's my counselor too. So I need her for scheduling my classes every semester. That's pretty fucked up. What else? But like I didn't only have her. There's other professors. There was this Jewish. I think there might have been two Jewish professors, but one particular guy. He was known for like abstract art. Like if it wasn't abstract art, it wasn't art. That was his whole thing. That like from his perspective, that art is over and that art history is over, and that if you're not doing abstract art, you're a phony, you're bullshit, you're out of date, and he wouldn't treat you very nicely. It was like very curmudgeonly. Um, I somehow got on his good side. I don't know how. I think I like I said, I get along with people. I make them laugh. I don't know how I did that, but I don't know that he respected me. I don't give a fuck if he respected me, but just don't fucking harass me. I can't say I really learned a lot because like, well, I learned technical stuff from him, which was good. Color theory, just some shit like that. But what else? At one point, oh yeah. Well, there's so many things I could tell you, but the the counselor, the crazy bitch that tried to ruin people, she knew that my dad had died, you know, just before I came to college, and I was a wreck. Like I would be in her office crying and shit. And she was actually very nice to me. She kind of took care of me to an extent. But she's like, you know what, you need counseling. You need like you got to get your shit together. And I did go for some counseling at college, but it's just bullshit. Like they did. So tell me how you feel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And why do you feel that way? Yeah. Okay. And next week, come back and tell me how you feel. It's like, what the fuck what good is this? You're not fucking helping me. And that was why I got into Zen Buddhism, was to learn a meditation technique to help me control my pain. That was the whole thing, and it worked. And that's another story. So, but like, yeah, so college was just a golden age for me at that time, because I got to become who I am, so to speak, as an artist. And the art history courses were super fascinating. I'm finally getting an education on like European history. Now you get the bullshit stuff that you got to learn in high school, but you're in high school, you don't give a fuck about that stuff. You're not really, you just don't care. You're a kid, you don't care. But now you're in college and you're going for art, and suddenly Europe is the Holy Land. Europe is Mecca. It's like I just was infatuated with Europe in college. Because of course I'm learning about the art history of Europe. So I'm coming to know my own identity, my own history, my background. Of course, the French are very, very, that's a big part of like painting history, uh, impressionism, blah blah blah, all the stuff. And so I I don't know how to explain this, but like I just felt this enormous swell of pride and love for my French ancestry. Um, I was extremely attracted to German expressionism. It really, really touched a chord. Austrian artists, wow. I mean, heavy stuff, like very, very, it just resonated so strongly with me. And so at one point, I had been friends with a lot of the foreign students. My brother actually went to the same college with me, and his dorm, I was in the art dorm, and he was in the foreign student dorm, whatever that's called, like the exchange student dorm. So, of course, I hang out with my bro and this and that. And I would meet different people from different countries, and just fascinated me. I've always been interested in that. So, and it struck me like shit, man. I only have another 2 years, I guess, of college, and like, when I leave here, I want to, I want to squeeze this for all it's worth. What more can I get out of this that I can't get out in the working world? And it occurred to me, well, like I'm hanging out with all these foreign students. Well, why don't I become a foreign student in another country? All right, well, how can I tie that together with my art major? Okay, well, it's obviously Europe, right? And I thought, okay, I'm really interested in German expressionism. And I set up, it's like a summer, I forget the name of these type of programs, but it's like a independent summer study program, something like that, where I would go to Germany on the school's dollar, whatever, get some financial aid to do this, and tour some of the famous museums, and then like write an art history paper, and then come back at the end of the summer. And somehow the school is going to pay for all this. Well, the fuckers rejected it, and that hurt. And I had like a art history teacher that's like sort of sponsored me to do this, and whatever, it just didn't come together. So I thought, well, shit, okay, what's another thing I can do? And all right, go to the foreign exchange office on campus, blah blah blah. Long story short, I ended up going to Japan for a year, and they had a painting program over there. So, wow, bingo. Okay. And like I had already been interested in Zen and these things, and I thought, well, I'm a fine art major. I can learn Buddhism over there, and painting. It'd be a really, really cool experience. I'm going. So it turns out I barely made it under the wire to get in on the program, because my state only allows like so many people to do that within a given time, and I would have had to have wait like another year, and by that time I'd be in my final, whatever it's called, when you're in at your end of your major, you have to do XYZ to graduate, yada yada. So anyway, I squeezed in. Somebody actually dropped out, and I took her spot, so it was kind of neat. And that opens up a whole new can of worms in terms of discussion going to Japan. I want to check the chat. Let's see, a lot of stuff going on. I've been blathering on so long here. Let's see, what's up? It's tough to da da da. It's one thing if a random lady off the street does that, but if you want a Google grad, you kind of just have to take it. Well, I was fortunate I didn't have to take it, but I witnessed a lot of it. Deconstruct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. The Jewish professor. Sounds like his style, right? So anyway, let me take a sip of water here. This show's going on very long. It's one of my longest shows of live streams. I'll never beat Nullis though in long shows. I kind of harp on him. I kid him because I love him. That's my bro right there. So anyway, there's a lot more to say about college though. So like, there was I met one of my sort of college best friends. I had a lot of friends, and I met the girl that I should have married. I dated this choreographer for 4 years. Oh God, that's a hard thing to look back on. That I regret leaving her for New York City. A stupid, selfish child. Anyway, you can't change the past. But glorious, glorious times though. It was a simpler time. It was exciting times. When you're coming of age as an artist, it's just a beautiful, wonderful experience. And being around other people that are in the same phase too, right? That's it's exciting because you're going through it all together. And that was kind of the beginning of like when I started going out to clubs and dancing and having a good time and checking out like the dance scene and this and that. Um, so on campus, the art department had its own gallery, and there was a dude that ran the gallery, and it was like the Student Art Association gallery. And so every student, like, they'd have group shows and things, but you could also have solo shows, and you would have to talk to that particular dude to get a show, in the little gallery they had. So that guy was a kind of big dog, I guess, because like when you're the guy that runs the student gallery, it's a status position, something something, and it doesn't take shit to run that gallery. All you do is schedule things, hang up things, take things down, buy some cheese and wine for the opening, kind of, that sort of stuff. And so it made him like the center of the social scene among the art students. And again, like, all of us were white too. Like, we didn't, things at that time, like the diversity quota kind of shit had not kicked in. So it was nice, and you figure, like, they're, in a sense, they're all kind of like me. They're sort of like white suburban kids that moved to the city and were growing individually as artists and young people, yeah, all that nice stuff. So it was just really lovely. It was great to go through all that together at the same time. And so we would just have like fabulous parties, super, super great fun parties. And then, like, every Thursday we would put a movie on or something, or watch The Simpsons or Saturday Night Live or some kind of, something as a group, and then eventually some of us went out and like rented art studios together, and we would have models come in and we would do like, I know this sounds funny, but like painting and drawing nude models is a normal thing for art students. So like we would hire these models to come in and sit for us for a couple hours, and then afterwards you'd always be going out and having and partying, like your college kid. So just really, really good memories. I'm happy to say that I had these great times and that they all kind of came together for me in that period of my life. See if there's any questions or comments. So you guys are just chilling. It's not I don't know. If you want to get into politics or current events, or you want to talk about anything else, I'm game. Otherwise, I'm just sort of, you know, doing the autobiography kind of stuff here. If that interests you. So this is real trick. What I'm trying to do here is put like a wire mesh in the window. You know, the kind that like, so if you threw a rock at the window, it wouldn't like still stay together. The idea being that I'm showing these characters outside, but you're seeing them through a window, you know, to imply that, you know, it's these people maybe watching them, you know, that kind of thing. It's just a way to create sort of tension in the scene. Yeah. What do we got in there? Is there going to be a Whack Fest this year? My understanding is yes. I know that Jeff is pretty heavily involved in the film that he's making. I really would have to ask him, to be honest with you. I can't tell you for sure, but my understanding is they generally like to do it every year. All right, what's next? There was a sort of famous club in the city where I went to college that was kind of like a goth club. That was pretty, interesting. I'm not goth, but like, and not just goth, like they had punk rock bands there and stuff. Some kinds of techno music. But it was like a very, very popular hangout spot for a lot of the art students. Definitely exposed me to some darker, degenerate culture that's out there, and I was very grossed out by that. The other side, if you will. But yeah, so there were a lot of in the arts, you're gonna have that. You got goths, you got punks, you got alternative rock, you got hippies, weirdos. And I can remember, I knew some people that were into politics, and I found them interesting. I was like, oh wow, this is neat conversation. I wasn't into politics at the time, and the people that were friends in the scene that were into politics were very well read on stuff. But looking back now, I noticed that really they were communists. They knew quite a bit about all of that, and their perspective on world affairs were from that scope. And so like there was certain radio stations that you would listen to, that were like the thing to do if it were the college radio or whatever. And everything was just like liberalism was the default setting for everything. You didn't question it. Everything outside of that was just like, square and like country bumpkin or suburban or something or other. And like, when you're 19, 20, what have you, you're trying to differentiate yourself from your parents, from the environment that you grew up in. And that is essentially what liberalism is to my thinking, is like rebelling against your parents. Not, does that make sense? I mean, it's like, my parents are conservative, so I'm liberal. I'm rebelling. I'm better than you. I'm an adult now. I'm smarter than you. All this, and they get locked into that. There's like it's like they're stunted. They're mentally, emotionally stunted, and of course, all the propaganda just locks that in. It just bakes it right into you. And so I had a lot of friends that were pretty out there, but and I noticed that, like, this isn't me. I'm not. I don't jive with this shit. I just kind of had that, I guess, Catholic conservatism baked into me, is from being raised right, and I think that, I don't know, I never really was a problem per se in terms of like my friendships and whatnot. But I do remember people kind of arguing with me about, like, corporations and the president and this and that and yabba yabba yabba, all their talking points, and sympathizing with the idea of, like, oh yeah, we need labor unions and we need you know justice and peace and fairness, and like, I'm not against justice and peace and fairness. I mean, I'm obvious. Like, there's nothing wrong with those things. They're good things. We want those things, but they're always couched within that kind of communist, Marxist ideology. So I really, but again, it's like, that wasn't my interest. I was interested in Buddhism and art history and Kung Fu and all that stuff. So the Kung Fu could be a very, very interesting topic to go into. Like, how did I get into that? That's actually very, very interesting stuff. Let's see what's happening in the chat. Not really much. Uh, they knew quite a bit about the wrong sort of stuff. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to look at, like, their character and their mentality, their behavior. Like, the weirder these people are, the more sort of violence that they somehow or other got exposed to. A lot of these people were like, oh, I have to move to San Francisco, or I'm better than you. I'm moving to New York City, or I blah blah. That kind of cocky self righteousness that liberals have, and so over time, those sort of friendships just dissipated because everybody moved to some other city, and a lot of them moved, and I remained. I had moved to New York City too. You guys know that, but not because I was a liberal or a communist. Like, that wasn't the reason. Um, anyway, just they're very unhappy people. They're very degenerate, unhappy people. A lot of weirdo, like, how do I say, like, it's how I met, like, the first transgender type people that I ever met, or uh, gay people, da da da, and I've always hated homosexuality. It's the most disgusting thing that I it's an abomination to me. Um, and then to be around, like, girls that are friends or that I like, and they're so into it, and it's so important, and it's so special, and they have to talk about it all the time, and they have to defend these people, and and I'm like, you know what? I'm not attracted to you anymore. You're creeping me out, and I'm not really. I'm not going to go down this road with you. Um, so that happened. So yeah, the kung fu stuff. I guess it's a bit harsh because I had ended up, like, dating one of these kind of girls. One of these. She was like sort of a goth girl. She was from New York City, She was very interesting. She was half Portuguese, half Japanese. Very, very exotic, extremely attractive girl, but very, very sick in the head. And she was dating this very weird, creepy dude, another art student type guy. His artwork would be like, you know, like drawing pictures of Bambi being raped and stuff like that. Was it's so funny. I'm so progressive. I'm breaking the rules. Like that kind of a creep. And she lived with the guy, and like we just met each other through the arts, through like we were at some gallery show. A friend introduced us, and yada yada. I wish I had at that age. I wish that I had a stronger sense of like a spider sense of like stay away from these people. They're bad. They're bad news. You know, I didn't have that. I was still naive, and that's very dangerous. So anyway, this page is coming together beautifully, man. I'm really just really happy with it. They knew quite a bit about kung fu, working hard. That is the meaning of it. That literally, yeah, gong fu. So gong, I guess it's translated. It's yeah, it's fu is like discipline, a thing that you like, or rather, a gong is a discipline, and it's hard to translate Chinese to English, but yeah, it's essentially working hard. Just listening to you. Okay, good. I'm glad you're enjoying the convo or the dialogue, or what do you call it when you're giving a speech, or a monologue. That's what it is. So anyway, so we're hanging out, we're having fun. She's playing footsie with me under the table while she's dating this guy and turning me on, and I'm like, I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And then she comes over to my place and says, I broke up with that guy and I want to be with you. And then zing, so that happens, and I'm enjoying it, while it lasts. But even her and I are like really, really different, And I realize like we're too different for each other. This isn't gonna work, Um, but I tried to make it work, this and that, and then one night, like she comes over. She's still living in his apartment. You're art students. You're poor. You if if you're renting a place with somebody and they leave, you're fucked. Like you can, you know, it's not as easy to kind of get out of things. From that perspective. But she says, "Oh no, we're broke up. It's over." Da, da, da. And I'm like, "Are you sure? This is kind of weird." All right, if you say so. And da, da, da. Okay, so then her and I are a thing now, an item. And she comes over at like, I don't know, it's late one night. I mean, it's like 1 o'clock ish or something. And she just like rings the bell. She's at my apartment. I get up and she's ready to go. And I'm like, wow, okay, and so this and that. I don't want to get into the details. And for she kind of stops at one point and she's looking out the window. I'm on the first floor and I'm like, what are you doing? And I look out the window and there's a shadow of a head like right up against the window watching us. And at the time I'm like, it's one of my buddies who's like fucking with me or something. And I'm like, what? What? And then the next thing, a fist comes flying through the window, smashing the glass all over the place. And she screams and runs into the bathroom, locks herself in there. I have no idea what the fuck's going on. I'm like, holy Jesus. Again, I'm very naive at this time in my life, and then there's this really, really loud banging at the door. I'm so in shock. I don't quite know what to do. And it's her boyfriend. He kicks the door down and he assaults me. And, he was armed. it was fucking ugly. It was a bad experience, as you can imagine. I mean, I reported it to the police. There was all this shit that went down. Um, he went after her. She had locked herself in the bathroom, like she knew it was him. So somehow or other, they talked it out, and she left with him. It's not funny at all, but like you know, long story short, later down the road, like I had found out that these two used to do this with, like, I don't know how to explain this. It's like a kink for them where she would like be with another guy, and then he would try to beat up the guy, and she would go back to him. It was very, like I told you, these are sick people. They're very, very shitty, sick people. So, and of course I got injured from that. This is really not a great Donald Kent story. It's like, oh, Donald Kent. But you don't grow if you don't have some shit in your life. So I was like, fuck that. I'm never, ever letting this happen to me again in my life. I will never let anybody abuse me in that way again. And I grew up at that moment. It was like a hard way to grow up, I guess, to realize, the facts of like how things are in the world or what have you. And very, very soon after that, I was looking up martial arts classes. I got really, really lucky. In the school newspaper, there was a guy that teaches like Bruce Lee system martial arts, which is very, very useful. It's very practical martial arts. And that class was like pretty much, so you'd go in, first half hour, you learn some techniques, and then for another hour or two, or hour and a half maybe, you would spar. And he's a professional. I don't know if professional is the word, but he's like good enough where he could spar with you and not hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Because you're totally new. You're trying to understand how to fight, and he's like, say, okay, it's not theory. You have to fight to learn how to fight. And spar. It's not real fighting. It's sparring, so it's controlled fighting, if you will. You're not going to get injured. You do get a little injured. You can't. Something that's kind of funny. The Bruce Lee teacher was a little Jewish guy who, yeah. So like, I mean, I, you go to college. There's Jews at college. They're whatever, and I didn't know anything about you know anything about the Talmud or any of that stuff. I was not J-pilled at all or whatever. I hung out with a lot of Jews in college. Had a lot of fun. But anyway, so yeah, he was my teacher, and so after about a year of sparring with him, I finally beat him in sparring. And then I realized, you know what, I'm good enough to move on. Um, my signature takedown move was called a spinning back fist. You can look that up. It's a nasty, it's a nasty surprise, and it can definitely knock people out with that. But you got to know how to apply it. So I actually kind of injured him a bit with that. I wasn't a great martial artist after a year. You're still clunky. 1 year is not enough to master a martial art. But kind of knocked his teeth a little bit loose. So that was the end of our working out together. But what I did then is I looked up like kung fu schools in my area. was never interested in karate. I've always disliked karate for various reasons. It's you'd think that having lived in Japan for a year, like I would have learned it. Nah, it's not. It doesn't appeal to me. It's very, very rigid, and you have to go through all this cultural stuff to get to the real effective stuff. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be Japanese. I don't care about ichini san shi go roku, and I don't care about the uniforms. I want to know how to survive, because I had already had been abused, so I'm not buying into Orientalism. Although, well, okay, whatever. So I found a what's called Hung Gar, which is a type of Chinese kung fu, Southern Chinese kung fu. I would describe it as like a very tiger style. It's a really hard, aggressive style. Hungar Hung Hung is a family name. Like and so it's like it's too hard to get into the weeds about like language and Chinese culture and stuff. So I'm not going to go there. But it's not just tiger. There's other stuff mixed in, and there was a tiny bit of long fist system in this particular school, and I really, really took to that stuff, like the forms. There was like snake style forms, and anyway, so that it's a bit more formal. There were no like Chinese people teaching. It was all just white people, dressed up in the costumes and doing the yada yada stuff. But and that's when I started doing deeper research and learning about Shaolin. I found that there's like Shaolin monks in New York City, and I wanted to learn Buddhism and Qigong and stuff, and I had gotten enough groundwork, if you will, or like basic understanding of like fundamental kung fu stuff, and so I moved to New York City to join the Shaolin Temple. They haven't officially changed the name Jews. Let me see what's going on in the chat here. Stretch, stretch. They still haven't officially changed the name to Jews of A. I'm not quite sure I understand that. Jews of America? I don't know what that means. Aren't the practitioners Hungarians? Ha ha! Oh, holy! Oh, Nullis for the win! Nullis for the win! 100 points. 2 nullis. You some bitch! You got me good. So yes, the Hung style kung fu originally comes from Hungary. No, that's not true. But anyway, I feel like look at this, man. There's a few tiny more tweaks on this page, and it's about done. But you guys have been a lovely audience in this wonderful, very long show. I'm so glad that I hope you enjoyed all this fun stuff. I feel like I've wasted enough of your time, so I think I'm going to wrap it here. I love you guys. Thanks so much for joining. Any last words? Any questions? I guess if not, then I will see you on the internets. I'll be doing more streaming for a while. Going to be taking a hiatus. I don't know when exactly, another week. Thank you, Nullis. I appreciate. I'm not sure why these are great streams for you guys. I'm just kind of being me, doing what I do, and I'm open for suggestions. Rosemary, let's connect soon. Okay, if you're still there, Ulfric, let's connect soon. It'd be good to chat with you or something. A lot going on. Anyway, God bless you guys. Have a super day, and thanks again for joining.